Good.
We're going to call the meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is a meeting on Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. And Mr. Domer, roll call, please.
Thank you. Councilmember Crosby.
Present.
Councilmember Kashafigita.
Here.
Councilmember Lau.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Present.
Mayor Hepburn.
Here.
All present, sir.
The City Council will meet in closed session for the following. Assistant City Manager Attorney Kranitz, please read the closed session items for the record and let us know if there will be any report out afterwards.
The first item is negotiations, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The negotiators are the city manager, the assistant city manager, and the city attorney. The employee organization is Laverne City Employees Association, Laverne Firefighters Association, Laverne Police Middle Management Association, Laverne Police Officers Association, and all unrepresented employees. And then the second item is conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D1, Gonzalez J. v. City of Laverne, Laverne Police Department case.
That's it.
That's it.
Council, do you have any comments? Thank you, Council. Any public comments? Let's open up public comment. We will close public comment, nothing online. And at this time, we will recess into closed session at 5:32 p.m. and reconvene at 6:30 p.m. Thank you. 6:38. We're going to call the meeting to order at 6:38 p.m. Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? Can you hear me? Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year. With that, I'll remind everyone that the city's rules of decorum, all speakers, members of the audience, and council members are to conduct themselves with decorum and to not engage in conduct that interrupts the orderly conduct of the city council meeting. Also, public comment through Zoom will only be accepted for the agenda items listed within the consent calendar. Public hearing and other matters section of the agenda. General public comments will be accepted at the meeting by those physically in attendance and the appropriate time. Before we go to the Pledge of Allegiance, we did have a closed session, and I would ask Attorney Kravitz if there was anything to report out.
Mr. Mayor, there's nothing to report out at this time.
Thank you very much. With that, tonight we're very pleased to have veteran Orlando Jackson, SFC Army, to conduct the Pledge of Allegiance for us tonight. Mr. Jackson, you are all ready. Please.
Please remove your headgear, place your right hand over your heart, and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Recovered.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. If you could wait there for a second.
Thank you. What's going on, Jackson? How you doing? It's good to see you, as always. It's good to see you. And I'm always honored to be President's American soldier. God bless you. God bless you and your family. You know, this city honors, it's our tradition now, moving forward, that we do honor our veterans that give the Pledge of Allegiance here in our great city. But we want to know more about Mr. Orlando Jackson. Sergeant First Class or Specialist Jackson? Sergeant First Class, Airborne. That's right. And I see amazing medals you've earned on your chest, but this city would love to learn more about you, sir.
Yes, how you doing? My name is Orlando Jackson. I'm a almost 14-year resident of the city of Laverne. Originally born and raised Compton and in Linwood, so I'm LA County native. Joined the military in 1988, served in 2009, 21 years, all active duty. Deployed twice to Bosnia, Afghanistan with the 82nd Airborne, and Iraq with 1st Armored Division, where I was wounded at. After I retired from the military, I wanted to go to school, come back to California. Didn't know anything, never even heard of Laverne before Seriously, only San Dimas and Raging Waters and Pomona. But it's just because you guys are out of our football league way over here. So, but I was staying with some friends in Altadena, looking at different colleges. I didn't know APU, Citrus, Mounts. I thought they were all four-year schools. I didn't know. So I'm driving down Foothill. GPS popped up. There's a university down there. Made a left, went down. They had a legal studies program, which I have a bachelor's from the University of Verne. But before, I never heard of the school. I walked around the campus, and I've been there ever since. So you reeled me in. Right. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sergeant. I appreciate you. And as a veteran, I'm truly honored to be right here with you, side by side. Well, the City of Laverne Certificate of Recognition presented Orlando Jackson. The certificate is presented on behalf of the Laverne City Council to U.S. Army Sergeant First Class Orlando Jackson with sincere gratitude and appreciation for your dedicated service to our country. All of it.
Oh, yeah. Roll call, Mr. Delmer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Crosby.
Here.
Councilmember Kashafigita.
Present.
Councilmember Lau.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Present.
Mayor Hepburn.
Here.
All present, sir.
Okay. Now we. We have a few presentations tonight, but our first presentations are recognize the incredible efforts of those who made our Christmas morning event a reality. This cherished tradition would not be possible without the dedication of city staff and an amazing group of volunteers who bring Christmas cheer to our community. The Christmas morning event requires detailed coordination from city staff across multiple departments and the enthusiastic participation of over 24 volunteers. Together, they travel throughout Laverne on Christmas morning, spreading joy and holiday spirit. First, I'd like to recognize the members of the city staff who volunteered for this event. If you are here tonight, please come forward. The dedicated individuals collectively drove over 100 miles on Christmas morning, ensuring that the holiday spirit reached every corner of Laverne. Let's give them a round of applause. Is anybody here? Well, there he goes. There he is. He did it all himself. Captain Tibbetts, how are you? Oh, come on. What are you guys waiting for? I said come on up. I think, come on. Get on up here. Thank you very much. Come on over here. We're going to get a picture of all you guys. Come on. Anybody else? Okay, that's yeah. Okay. Now we'd like to honor the Santas. Okay, now the yeah, I gotta be really careful with that one, don't I? The people that were how do I put it, Wendy? Santa's helpers. There we go. They just dress like Santa. Okay, there we go. That's even better. We first have Council Member Rick Crosby. Recreation Leader John Malarkey, come on back up here. RSVP Barry Brandler, come on up, Barry. Resident Robert Perez. Come on, where are we? Not here tonight? Okay, well, thank you. Resident Danny McLaughlin. Okay, not here either. Resident Tony Mora, come on up. I want to appreciate, thank you all. If you want to stay up here, you can stay up here. We're not done with you yet. Obviously, it wouldn't happen without all of you, and we really do appreciate it. This is one of the traditions that we want to make sure we keep. I know we've morphed it and changed it. But, at the end of the day, we have personnel and wonderful people that donate their time to such a wonderful event for our city. So, and this next year, it's the 100th. Is that correct, Elmer? Well, 100th anniversary. So the 100th running, but the 100th anniversary. So that's coming next. So I can't thank you guys enough, seriously. And get a picture. Whoa, congratulations. Obviously, he loves it just like everybody else, so thank you very much. Let's get a picture. Now we'd like to invite the community volunteers and community groups to step forward. These remarkable individuals and organizations played a crucial role in making the event a success. Please join us as we celebrate. Bear Eastwood. Where's Bear? Nope. Craig Beaumont, come on up. Scott Dilley. Scott's not here. We've got CERT members Rick Elmore and Susie Rhodes. There we go. Crown Coach, fire enthusiast, team member Mike McDonald. He's not coming up from San Diego. Come on, guys. You don't have to go over there. Come on. Come on. Right over here. Again, thank you all very much. Thank you again. Without, this, as we know that we've changed the way we do things with our Christmas Day celebration, and it wouldn't work without the volunteers. It just doesn't work, and our staff, and we really appreciate everything you guys do. Finally, before you all go, I want to take a moment to highlight the extraordinary commitment of our long-term volunteers. While we welcome many new faces this year, some of our volunteers have been giving their time to this event for over a decade, some of us more than that. To those standing here, please raise your hand if you have volunteered for this event for over 5 years. Okay. You can stand up. Okay, 5. Very good. How about 10 years? 10 years? Very good. Okay, we're going to do this one. Now 20 years or more. And as Mr. Crosby said, a special recognition goes to Craig Beaumont, who has volunteered this event for over 40 years. That was how many? 54. That's a little more than 40. Yeah. Your unwavering dedication and service are an inspiration to all of us. Let's give a big round of applause for Craig and all the volunteers for their incredible commitment to the community. I'd also like to recognize BC Robert Russell, who is currently assisting on the Eaton Fire. May he be safe. He played an instrumental role in coordinating this event, both leading up to Christmas morning and on Christmas morning, as he's done for many, many, many years. Thank you, everyone, for making this event such a treasured experience to Laverne residents, and your generosity and holiday spirit make this city so special, and that is the true statement. It really does make it a special place. We're now presenting the community survey results, which was conducted to inform the development of the upcoming strategic plan. Very exciting. Very exciting, so don't leave. If you guys want to leave, you guys, you can go. Yeah, please. Yeah, get out of here. I'd meet you at Chase's, but I got a meeting, sorry. We will now call forward the Senior Management Analyst, Aaron Bilstein, who will be reporting on this item. Come on up, Aaron. What?
Sing.
Well, go ahead.
Thought about it. But then it's everyone would know. Can I have the clip? Good evening, Mayor, City Council, staff, and community, as we're reporting on the community survey here. As a reminder, we did this last fall. We had it open for a couple months. Actually, we extended it to give more people the opportunity to give their feedback. We got 383 results, which is not terrible. But we are hoping to do this annually and continue to get more feedback. I think it'll be a awesome tool for us to see how we're doing, how people are feeling, get a pulse from the community every year. So be on the lookout next fall for this again. But just a reminder why we did this. This is a foundation as part of the strategic planning process for the city. So the feedback that we received from the community will help shape how we do strategic planning over the next few months with City Council. But I have a PowerPoint. I'm going to blast through it. It'll be online. I don't need to bore you with 27 slides of results, but I want you to see them and maybe highlight some things that are notable. So bear with me. First question was quality of life in Laverne. And so for all of these questions, you'll see the darkest orange in the far left. That's excellent. The next level of orange is good. And then you have gray is fair. Poor is that lighter blue. You don't see much of that, thankfully. And then the dark blue is don't know. So sometimes you might see a big bar of don't know. I'll try to point that out. It makes it seem a little like, oh, are we not doing well on that? It's an example of that is public transportation. A lot of people said they don't know. So how we're doing with that looks a little skewed on that, but I'll point it out. So overall, we have a lot of feedback between good and excellent, how overall the city's doing. Some things that we have, again, I'm not going to read all of this. It's available online, but some things that people highlighted, the sense of community, safety, our parks, public services, that those were going well. Some opportunities for improvement, some places we might want to spend our focus. Some concerns the community has is around homelessness and our infrastructure, the businesses and those vacant buildings, crime and those break-ins and whatnot. So we had, on some of these questions, people spent a lot of time. They were really thoughtful, giving a lot of explanations of what's been going on and what they concerned about. So this is just a summary to overall themes that we saw from the community on these items. We looked at how the thing is right over whatever that word is. Don't mind me. It's Laverne as a whole. Is the word that's missing there in the corner? Thanks. Again, we have some excellence, a lot of goods. People are feeling generally happy here, and that's the theme that we see overall. There's places to grow, like I said, but we generally had a lot of positivity here, which is good. You see some fares, but thankfully not a lot of pours on this one. Again, some positive things. The themes are very similar for each of these questions. We had similar types of responses, similar categories, which I think is really helpful because we'll know as we review this in more detail how that shapes our next conversations with council. recommend living in Laverne and remaining in Laverne. A lot of people want to stay here. A lot of people are happy here. That's good. That's a community satisfied with where they are, which we're thankful for. Safety, some very safe, a lot is somewhat safe, but you're starting to see that trend of, again, the foothill corridor, property crime, having people feeling more unsure about their safety, and the themes that come after this are related to that, about crime and policing, public transportation. What does Metro coming mean for these things that I'm already worried about, already concerned about affecting us? This one is more cultural. Again, good, taking care of our residents, respecting residents, making people feel welcome. I swear I made this one bigger. I can't see that far. So this one's something about, no, just kidding. This is in relation to volunteer opportunities, getting connected again, staying connected with our community. A lot of good, but you'll see that one that says opportunities to volunteer. There's a big blue bar. That's just people not being sure. That one of the things that tells us, especially in our communications team, is how do we change our communication about where people can plug in with the city. We have a lot of opportunities to volunteer. We just saw that with Christmas morning. So how do we communicate about those opportunities to connect with our community? A lot of data here, a lot of small things, but this is very much how Laverne looks, what we see about Laverne. Like that's cleanliness. You'll see some of those blue bars are childcare, young childcare, K-12 education. That's public transportation. So it's people not sure. A lot of the types of respondents, maybe it's not as relevant to them. Maybe it's those older families who don't have the young families. It depends. We can't read into that too much. Again, this was just a survey, not statistically significant in any way. So we're just trying to see those themes that pop up through it. Small town feel being great, parks being important, sports opportunities, community engagement being important, concerns about traffic and homelessness and development, the downtown, what's happening there. The themes continue. This is how much people, they're responding, self-reporting on how they're connected with the city. So have they watched our city council meetings? Have they volunteered? Have they contacted a council member? What we were trying to get at here is how are people connecting with us to better know, are we reaching as many people as we can? That's our goal. This is services, so this is more like city services. You'll see street repair on here. That's totally visible. It's like the fifth one down. Street lighting, land use, code enforcement, garbage collection. Those two that are low are bus and transportation and land use and planning. Those are the big dark blue bars. Again, that's a don't know. But you'll see some expanded gray here. Those are going to be items that we're going to want to point out. That gray is fair in this one. And then the light blue is poor. This one is less community-based, more government leadership-based. So we're talking about confidence in the government aspect of our organization, how we're treating residents, how Laverne is heading. A lot of positivity on this one. This one gets at direction in the next couple years. So this is after we sort of set up how are we as a community, how are we as an organization, as a government entity, as leaders of this community, where do we think we need to be, where do residents say we need to be focusing in the next couple years? The responses to this are really mainly in economic development, protecting that small town feel, some of those main themes that we talk about here on Monday nights. Usually it's Mondays, but also that we've seen in the rest of the survey. Of course, I probably know how. Did this one? Yeah. And then I'll breeze through this, but just so you guys can see where people are connecting with us. Most people are saying that they're finding information about on social media, the city's website, our rec guide. Those are 3 of our main focuses in communicating out. This was our responses between the districts, so mostly even responses across the city, people responding. More than 50% of the people who responded have lived here over 20 years. And then another 20%, so 70% of people have lived here more than 10 years, 50% of that more than 20. 83% of respondents were in a single-family home, and 60% said they did not have children under 17 in the house. 61% said no one older than 65 in the house. This is the demographic breakdown that we had. The age breakdown, you have a big chunk of that being between 35 and 75, unsurprising. And 60% of respondents were female. That's what I got for you. That's what I know. I just want to focus on to sort of summarize. Residents really focused on that small town charm, the strong sense of community. They love events like the 4th of July. Safety remained a really key strength, with residents really valuing our public safety departments. Parks and recreation was highlighted a lot, loving senior classes, the recreation programs that we offer. And they said that our communication efforts, really those newsletters, the rec guide, the social media, is where they're getting information from us. Some of the concerns that have emerged, like I mentioned before, it's homelessness is a continued worry. Safety in public spaces, the potential impact with the metro. Residents were concerned about infrastructure that included the maintenance of roads, our utility infrastructure, traffic, lighting on certain roads, and how that connects to safety. Questions and concerns about high density housing developments and how that impacts the small town feel, and how do we balance those two things was brought up. And then just looking again at that, we talked about the empty storefronts and economic development in general. One other thing I think is important is that residents continued to bring up downtown, revitalizing downtown, looking at how cultural events and affordable housing can be brought in while keeping the character and the small town charm, essentially. So basically, just in conclusion, the feedback reflects a community that values traditions and quality of life, but recognizes the need for thoughtful leadership to address pressing challenges by prioritizing safety, infrastructure, fiscal sustainability, economic development. Together we can preserve that charm, but ensure a thriving future for Laverne.
Thank you, Erin. Do we have any questions from council for Erin? Just a great job. Thank you very much. With that,
I wanted to mention I'm going to be calling tomorrow our 5 survey. We had those prizes. So 5 members of the community won, and I just wanted to point out what they won so that I can call and give them that information.
Hawaii.
Unfortunately, not Hawaii, but
margarita
free
machine
excursion through our community services department,
there you go.
a ride along with our police department, a fire station tour with our fire department, and potentially maybe being an honorary judge at 4th of July if they play their cards right. So, thank you guys.
Thank you, Erin, very much. Very good. Our final presentation will be an update on the mandatory recycling organics compliance. We'll call forward Senior Management Analyst Nicole Houston. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to deliver a report on a mandatory recycling and organics compliance update. This is specifically outreach and implementation plan for our commercial and multifamily residential properties. We'll just have a brief overview of the presentation. We'll include some background, our outreach strategy, our implementation plan, some upcoming workshop opportunities, key dates to remember, and resources for this segment of our community. So AB 341, AB 1826, and SB 1383 require all California businesses and multifamily residential properties to implement organics and recycling programs to reduce waste sent to our landfills. The City of Laverne has partnered with our trash hauler Waste Management to meet these state mandated goals through a structured rollout program. The program will support environmental sustainability, and it will ensure compliance with state laws. Over the past 2 years, outreach has included bill inserts, public education campaigns, and direct communications with our customers. The non-compliant customers will be receiving 2 letters co-signed by the city and Waste Management, informing them of requirements and the need to set up recycling and organic services, as well as deadlines and cart delivery dates. Letters also include invitations to workshops and deadlines for compliance. So the rollout will occur in 4 phases based on waste generation. So phase 1 will include businesses generating over 25 cubic yards of waste weekly. Phase 2 will be businesses generating 10 to 25 cubic yards weekly. Phase 3, 5 to 9 cubic yards weekly. And phase 4 will be businesses generating under 5 cubic yards. Each phase will overlap the prior to ensure that it's a comfortable rollout for our commercial residents. The phase 1 will span from January to March, phase 2 February to April, phase 3 March to May, and phase 4 April to June, with cart deliveries beginning in March and concluding in June 2025. The Waste Management will be handling service setup and monitoring compliance throughout the phases. Waste Management will host workshops to provide an overview of legislation, its purpose, and practical steps for compliance, with opportunities for Q&A with Waste Management. The first workshop will be held here at City Hall on Wednesday, January 29th, which is a week from tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. It will also be available via Zoom for those that cannot attend in person. The second workshop will be held on February 19th at 5 p.m. in the same format, and then additional workshops will be scheduled as needed. A few key dates to remember would be the first and second workshop, and then also when the cart deliveries begin. So you'll want to make sure you understand which phase you're in, and that will be informed via the letters, and you'll have an idea of when the deadline for compliance will be. So additional resources, I have my contact information here. I have Waste Management's contact for recycling compliance who can come out and do assessments. We also have created a mandatory organics and recycling waiver application that has been added to the webpage dedicated to this effort, and so that can be found at cityoflaverne.org/organicsrecycling, and then the QR code can be utilized as well. Additional program information, including workshop registration links and waiver applications, can be found here. I am available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Nicole. Do you have questions, Mr. Crosby?
Will the sessions be recorded as well in case people can't attend any session, just so that they can be informed and be replayed back?
Absolutely, we can do that. We can get that added to the webpage that's been created.
And the containers that are going to be delivered, what color are they going to be?
Ooh.
Mystery color. Mystery.
I actually have Don here from Waste Management that can tell you a little more about the bin.
Oh, Don?
What's up?
Hi, Don.
He's always at all the functions.
Every event.
Always, every event.
Yes, so the state of California has designated colors for each of the commodities. So it'll be green for organics, which is your food waste and your green waste, blue for recycling, and then black for trash.
So we can still just put it in our green
That's correct.
trash can
That's correct.
that we've been, okay.
Oh,
Just
a new color.
nope, you're just mixing it in with your food waste and your green waste. Yep.
Now, previously they had just one huge bin that everything was put in and dumped. So these are multifamily, places like Hillcrest, mobile home parks, I assume. Well, what's that?
So it'll basically be an assessment on my part where I see what they have space for in the first place and what they're generating. We have multiple options that will address space restraints, such as split bins, where it's the same size as their normal bin, it's just split down the middle for half trash and half recycling. And then for organics, we also have carts, like the residential carts you see at people's homes. And we also have bins for the bigger businesses that may have like a green waste company, or a lot of restaurants with like a bin for all the food that they throw out. So we'll basically just assess what they have on site. They need to figure out the in between.
Very good. Thank you. Good to see you again. Any other questions? Thank you, Nicole. Appreciate that. We'll now move on to announcements of upcoming community events, and we have a few cards here. Before we start, I just actually we could have waited to the end, but I think announcements are really important right now. That we are still in a red flag warning. So, and I just want to thank our fire chief, Chief Nig, Chief Sam Gonzalez, also our city manager Ken Dormer, and all the staff, because we are Chief Nig is connected with the emergency center and with the operations, and the information he's been getting out to our residents is much better than a lot of the communities experienced, and especially when we're having notifications when everything's safe, and then all of a sudden we get a PSPS notification that we have to evacuate when it's actually West Hills and the other end of the valley. So these are going to be things that I think we're going to all be looking at. I know Chief Nig's looking at it, City Manager Domer, and Chief Gonzalez to look at to see where they failed, which Edison did fail. I mean, as far as communication, a lot of our communities were out for multiple days, 3 to 5 if I'm not mistaken. So very big inconvenience. But again, I want to also mention the fact that the people that in the Altadena area and also in the Pacific Palisades, just unbelievable devastation. And any way that you can help in any way to those people. I know my wife went to her hospital where she used to work at. There was 3 people that lost their homes in the Altadena fire. So I think it's something to think that we experienced an inconvenience. We didn't experience a massive loss, and I think we're very fortunate. But again, as I've been doing the minute with the mayor, from the information the chief gives me, the city manager, and also Chief Gonzalez, that stay diligent, be prepared, ready, set, go. I mean, we are in a high fire area, as we notice that cancellations on insurance, it's just a mess right now. So be diligent, make sure that you have things packed that you need to have packed. Make sure if we have to leave in an emergency situation, be ready. Be ready. It was difficult. Our area was out for 4 days. I know that Danita's area was 4 days also, and there 2 days. There's two areas. It's the Bryden switch, and then it's the other switch, which the Avenida. Avenida is the one which is Fox Glen has, and so they were down for an extra couple days, and so it was very inconvenient. But I just want to thank our staff. The communication, our website's up and running. We're giving information as soon as we get it. Chief Nig was there on the fire line with the emergency personnel and giving us information as it was coming along. And we wouldn't be in a great spot as we are without that great communication. And also, our reservoirs are up to capacity. We have emergency generators in place in case of a fire. The relationships we have with Metropolitan Water District, which is our big reservoir in Live Oak Canyon, that was empty. A couple phone calls from our city staff and management. 3 Valleys would buy the water because that's just a storage container to basically send it to whoever wants to purchase the water. MWD put water in our reservoir in case they had to snorkel helicopters in there for water, and 3 Valleys said they'll purchase it. So these are the relationships we have, and it's very important to protect our community. So kudos to all of our staff. And if you do feel that you need to donate, look on the city website. There are locations. I know a lot of them are inundated, and there's specifics they need now besides money. But I know a lot of undergarments, things like that, underwear and socks, things that they have a ton of clothes. But look closely. If you can donate, let's donate and help those people, because it's going to be a road to recovery for them. So, again, thank you to our staff. They did an amazing job, and we're not out of the woods yet. We still have a few more days. The winds are kicking up, and they may shut power off. We really don't know. They've been giving out announcements right and left, but we need rain, which is coming this weekend, and that's another thing. We're supposed to have rain this weekend. So, Mr. Domer.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, thank you. I just want to, for anybody who did lose power, you will lose power again.
Yes.
I've been on several of the online calls with Edison and local elected officials. So it does prevent the wildfires. What goes on basically is if something blows into a line or if there's still bare cable versus coated cable, they have different thresholds for when they shut off the power. But Edison believes, and they are the sole determinators of when the power is shut off. And so I know it was frustrating for a lot of people, but like what the mayor was saying is we were inconvenienced, and other people had total loss of their homes and possessions. So if you had power shut off, Edison has a lot of resources available. First of all, if you did not get an email or a text alert, then I would suggest that you go to sce.com/PSPS alert. We have these flyers over. Thank you. They have a lot of information on them about that, but we were getting calls because people didn't know when their power were going off. And again, it's not the city, it's Edison, but get onto their listserv so that you get the call as soon as we get the call also. So also on there is a lot of information. They're giving great incentives right now. If you live in that severe fire area, and if you had your power shut off, you do. So on generators and also power stations are the electric, basically power stations that you can charge up, plug into. So based on your need, if it's a refrigerator, if it's a computer, they also have the emergency medical devices. They have battery backups for that. So again, at the sce.com/PSPS, get to their marketplace, get to medical programs, a lot of good information. Just that everybody goes there, get on the alert function, and then also get on our alert function, because with Chief Gonzalez, Chief Nig, and our staff, we were putting out not just information to the city council and residents, but we were sharing it with the other cities because they just have their own police and fire. We were a lot more nimble and flexible. We've proved that over and over. So, follow us. And if you're not on social media, if you don't get email, we're trying our best, especially, information home parks. But, neighbor to neighbor, make sure your neighbors.
I think I carriage on that too. Check on everyone. Check in your neighborhoods. But also, when it becomes to a situation where we're possibly have a power outage, which we're going to have more of them, I'm just telling you right now, we will have more. A generator in a box doesn't help. A generator out, it's been started and has additional fuel and is working with good extension cords, thick number 12 extension cords that are not small, that if you want to run your refrigerator, things like that, and some lighting, get your batteries, get your flashlights, have some extra water and some food. It's just the basic stuff. This is going to happen more often, and we're going to try to get more communication from Edison, but if there's even a light wind, they could cut us out at any time. So, but again, thank you all. Appreciate it. I think everybody was really, we all helped each other, neighbors helped each other. We made sure people got up on generators who had them, and that's what our city's about, helping each other. With that, we'll move on to speaker cards. Daniel Rojo, Tri-City. Come on up, Daniel.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just two quick updates with Tri-City. The first one is the Community Wellbeing Grant, which is a grant that's being given to people who work in the communities, within the 3 communities, and it's up to $10,000, the grant, I should say, and if they work with people or support people with from the ages from 0 to 25. All the information is on the flyer, and the contact information is also on the flyer. And then the second announcement is the community forum, which is an opportunity for the community to get updates, share feedback, and also ask questions about some of the current programs that are being funded through the California Mental Health Services Act. That's taking place next Wednesday at Alexander Hughes in Claremont, and dinner will also be provided on that night. So those are just two quick updates that I needed to provide to you guys. That's pretty much it.
Thank you very much.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it. Thank you, Daniel. Adrian Romero, Verne Library. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. I would like to introduce a few events that will be taking place at Laverne Library. Tomorrow we'll be holding a paint night program for adults at 6 p.m. People will be able to paint their own impressionist landscape by using paint by numbers. Supplies will be provided to those who registered, and walk-ins are welcome while supplies last. The materials are generously provided by the Friends of the Library. And our winter session of Smart Start Storytime will end this Friday, but will start again February 14th and will take place at 11 a.m. on Fridays. During these sessions, children ages 2 to 5 can enjoy books, songs, and movement while getting ready for starting school. Advanced registration is required for these sessions. It can be done in person, by phone, or by visiting our website. And in celebration of Black History Month, Laverne Library will be holding an event for children ages 6 to 12 in February titled Who Was Alexander Miles? During this program, children will learn about the contribution Alexander Miles made to the elevator and its safety by developing automatic doors. After the presentation, children will be able to make their own safe pulley system. And I also want to mention that our library has N95 masks available to the public. These masks are provided by the Department of Public Health, and at this time we're giving 2 per customer, but if a person needs more, please just let us know. And that's all I have for today. Okay,
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you very much.
I just want to make sure on that adult painting, there's no wine involved. My wife likes to do that wine.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
But there's beer. Oh, I'm just checking. Okay.
And then at the Claremont Library, they are handing out Narcan as well. You can get that through there. That's our closest one. That library, they do that.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Sherry Best.
All right. I'm Sherry Best, and I'm here on behalf of the Laverne Historical Society. These are my announcements. First, I want to introduce our newest line of jam, Pucker Power Plum. This is good stuff. No,
It's Pucker Power.
we have the larger ones too.
You've got
This
a
fit
different
in
cost
my
structure.
purse.
You got a cost structure.
This is the taster. This will get you started, but then it accelerates from there. This jam joins our family of pomegranate, peach, mango, apple, lemon, and pickle products and preserves. Your donation helps the Laverne Historical Society. We had a great meeting last week at Hillcrest with a presentation by Paul Spitzeri, who is the director of the Workman and Temple Homestead Museum. We had 68 people in attendance, and we will upload the YouTube video from the recording of that event onto our website so you can watch that. It really was terrific. The granddaughter of one of the women in this drama, she and her husband came out from Arizona and contributed to the presentation, and they were just excellent. Upcoming events include a trip to Glendora's Rubel Castle and Altaloma's Sam Malouf House and Garden. There are spaces for attendees for both of these exclusive tours. These are private tours. Check out our flyers, which I put on the table over here, if you're interested in either of these adventures. The Community Center here has now 2 new displays featuring treasured artifacts from the Laverne Historical Society. So come by and see. We just put up our second display today. And as well, Laverne's 4 elementary schools have new displays. Last week, we changed out the contents of all the displays and rotated them around. And when I was at Roynan changing out the display, a class of students was in the library, and they helped me unpack all the goodies out of the box and touch the items and talk about them and decide where to put them in the display case. It was what I call a wonderful opportunity for the teachable moment. It was lots of fun. So welcome to 2025, and think about joining the Laverne Historical Society for education, fun, and adventure, and also a cool sweatshirt. These are custom orders, so if you're interested in your sweatshirt, come talk to me, and we'll work that out for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sherry. Appreciate that. Anybody else have any announcements? Ms. Beauchamp.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I wanted to let the residents know that tomorrow, January 22nd, from 1 p.m. to 2:30, the Probation Oversight Commission will be having a virtual town hall meeting, and they're going to discuss the juvenile transfer motion process, and they're going to have representatives from Nathan Hockman, LA County District Attorney's Office, the Probation Department, the Public Defender's Office, as well as the Office of Youth and Community Relations. And I think this is important for the residents to know what the process will be, because some of them will be coming to Afflerbach Page. So that's important. So put that on your calendar. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beauchamp. Anyone else on any announcements? Council, announcements? Nothing? The only thing that I have is Heritage Park. They are doing the orange picking, $8 a bag, Saturdays from 9 to 3. And you can buy some goodies at the Heritage Park in their barn. They've got some jams that are good, maybe not as good as the, Yes, yes, but very good. So they have great stuff, but it's a great time to pick. The oranges are great this year, nice and sweet. So go on up to Heritage Park. With that, we move on to the consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are routine and will be enacted by one motion unless a member of the City Council or a member of the audience requests separate discussion. Council, I think, Mr. Johnson, you have a recuse on item 5. Is that correct?
Correct. I do own property within 500 feet of the project, so I will be removing myself from the room.
Okay. And Mr. Mayor, we're going to pull that one so he can stay for the consent calendar.
You can stay for this, and then you can.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then,
He's trying to get out of here.
We'll take that up after the consent calendar.
Do we have any other item pulled off the consent calendar?
No other items that we're notified of, sir.
With that, except for item 5, do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Vote, please.
The consent calendar minus item 5 being pulled. Motion by Crosby, motion by Castelfagita, seconded by Crosby. Pass 5-0.
Thank you. And bring cookies back, would you? Oh. Move back to item number 5, which is the license agreement with Lewis Land Developers and City regarding recreational uses of former Lutheran High School property. We have a motion. Oh, wait.
Want me to discuss it?
I'm sorry, we didn't open it. We didn't open that up. Okay. Yeah. We're going to open that up.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, this was pulled by 2 items. Danita Beaucamp and Sherry Bess, if they both want to get up there and ask their questions, I do have the ability to answer all that.
Very good. We'll open up the floor. Ms. Best.
I believe Jeff Allred also sent an email requesting the item be pulled.
And Jeff.
Yeah, and Jeff.
Yes.
Okay, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to read the email that I sent to Mr. Domer. We've had quite a lot of communication back and forth, which was very helpful and clarifying to me. But I want to speak to my request to pull that item from the consent calendar for tonight's council meeting. The statement concerns authorizing City Manager Domer to sign a license agreement with Lewis Land Developers to lease the former Lutheran High School recreational fields, parking lot, and gym for authorized city recreational use. I wish to positively acknowledge City Manager Domer for communicating with me more than once just prior to the Martin Luther King holiday weekend to provide clarifications to my questions. However, his responses added to some of my concerns and what I feel was a hasty agreement with Lewis Land Developers, at least as far as community members are concerned. Until last week, members of the community had interacted with Mr. John Graham and Mr. David Little, 2 Laverne community residents who demonstrated repeatedly that their interest in this development stemmed, at least in part, from their attachment to Laverne as residents. Furthermore, their offer to set aside land for park use was part of their initial proposal, and they never wavered from this gift to the city. Their offer included remodeling of the bathroom of the gym, creation of an expanded memorial to Corey Hiltz, pickleball courts, actual green space, which was modified in the map presented at the December 4th scoping meeting to be located adjacent to the gym and parallel to Fruit Street. This change was substantial and positive and very different from the previous map. In addition, they scaled down the number of single-family and townhomes, partly in response to city staff requirements for street access, but also in response to community input. They were highly responsive. Their interactions were respectful, timely, and responsive. There has been no such interaction with Lewis Land Developers. At the December 4th scoping meeting, a representative from Lewis Land Developers was present, but his attendance and Lewis Home's involvement in the Lutheran High School project was never explained at the scoping meeting. Both John Graham and David Little were present and never made statements that they were withdrawing from the project. I can only assume that John and Dave withdrew after the scoping meeting, but this was not announced to the public. In email and interactions with City Manager Ken Domer, and as president of the Laverne Historical Society and a member of the community that is directly impacted by the Lutheran High School project, I requested that a model such as the one that brought the Weber House and Sloan Barn to Heritage Park be considered for the Laverne Historical Society. That is, development fees paid by the developer could be used to support a permanent location for the society. In his email reply, Mr. Domer stated that the park development fees generated by the Lutheran High School development would use up the city leverage to secure the fees and make necessary upgrades to the gym and other parts of the space set aside for the city. In addition, his email identified front office space and storage as using some of these fees. There was no clarification as to what was meant by storage and front office space. Although I understand that there was to be storage space placed behind the gym, there is currently. This would be for city use and not directly benefit members of the community. I do not know what is meant by front office space. So if this I don't know if this clarification now means that the city would be obligated to make the necessary improvements to the gym and the other areas. Would this mean that the gift of land, gym refurbishment, Corey Hiltz Memorial, and other improvements offered by John and Dave is now off the table and instead would be the responsibility of the city? What are the citizens of Laverne truly getting in return for this change? Finally, and most concerning, is the statement by Mr. Domer that the area proposed to be licensed to the city is for, quote, interim use as future items to be leased, subdivided, and city ownership, etc., had yet to be discussed further and ironed out, end of quote. At the December 4th scoping meeting, and in direct response to a community member's concerns that the space proposed to be ceded to the city could be sold for residential development at a later date, Mr. Eric Scheer directly assured us that this space would become city-owned park space and as such could never be sold for development. However, it seems that this new proposed license agreement with Lewis Land Developers, devoid of specific language related to a permanent park for Laverne, leaves open the option to sell and or redevelop the land for residential use at a later date. So for these reasons, we, being myself and John Blickenstaff, have requested that further discussion of the Lutheran High School property with Lewis Land Developers be provided to community members before any agreements are made. Now, after that, I got very thorough explanation from Mr. Domer, which I truly appreciate, and I want to add by saying I want to thank members of city staff for responding to my concerns about the item that has now been pulled from tonight's agenda. I especially want to thank City Manager Ken Domer for responding to my emails and providing further clarification. Unfortunately, the language in the item itself, the timing of placing it on the consent agenda with no time for broader discussion, and the change in developers with whom community members have become familiar, combined to create a certain amount of confusion. Of course, I would not want to halt use of the recreational space or playing fields for any time, while progress goes forward on development of this property. However, I strongly urge continued focus on creating a portion of this space for a park for the residents of Laverne, including in timely contracted agreement with the developer. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Ms. Beauchamp.
I too was concerned about this being put on the consent calendar with the community understanding that John and Dave were the front people, that they were the purchaser of the land. At no time at any of the meetings that I attended, and I attended all of them, was it ever discussed that Lewis Homes was the financier or their funding investment company. So, they've been transparent about everything else, but I have to say I was very disappointed about that. But knowing that the city is going to be able to continue to use the gym for the youth sports and the soccer field, I think it's great. And again, I agree with Sherry. Ken did a fabulous job. I mean, he explained everything in detail. He couldn't have made it any more clear. So thank you, Ken. I really do appreciate you responding to the emails. It just makes life a lot easier. So thank you for that. Acknowledging the staff too.
Thank you, Ms. Beauchamp. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? We'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it up to the dais. Mr. Crosby.
Yeah, I know that Danita and Sherry got quite a bit of information from Mr. Domer, so I asked Mr. Domer if you can give that information to the rest of the public that didn't have direct contact with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to apologize. This was a rushed agenda item to get it on so we can continue the recreational services that are going on right now. The city has a youth basketball league in the gym. There's a soccer club that uses the fields, and then there's a volleyball club that also uses the gym, and then I know a canine.
Katie's Canine College, yeah.
Doing some stuff there. So
they use it a lot. Everybody does.
So I apologize that, Yvonne and I were talking about it, that we're so close to the issue of the use for recreational purposes and making sure that we could maintain it, that when the report was written, we didn't step back and look at it from a, maybe a resident concern that's not so close to the information. So I do apologize for that. But what's going on here is that, again, the city only processes applications. We don't really get involved in the detail of who's the ownerships, who's the financial people, and I know there was a switch out. We actually were surprised by that too. We have had a couple of meetings with Glenn Crosby of Lewis Homes, who I know is here in case there's a question, but I have to state that this is about the recreational license agreement and not the development.
No relations.
And no relations to
None.
you, sir. So,
None.
Though the hair, but yeah, this is not about the development, so we can't talk about that here. But a license agreement is, I'd say, lesser than a lease agreement. A lease agreement would be the city leasing the entire property and taking responsibility for everything, the buildings and all that stuff. We want nothing to do with the buildings. We do want the ability to program the athletic field and the gym and then utilize the parking lot. So the license agreement basically sets that up for a year because we believe, based talking to the developer, that's about the time we'll have, maybe a few more months after that. But they are going to be proceeding on their development proposal, which is a whole separate thing than this. I can state that we are adamant about getting the use of the gym and the ownership of the gym and holding them to the memorial flagpole and everything else that has been discussed in all the community engagement. That's why the community engagement was held. So. But the license agreement basically gives us, the city, the ability to continue to have those recreational services. So Lewis Homes, or they have a couple different names that we'll call them Lewis, they're not property managers. They don't know how to work with athletic groups and youth groups and all that stuff. So we are stepping in to make sure that those recreational opportunities can continue and that we can utilize the gym during this interim period. Otherwise, they're not going to do it, and the entire property more than likely would have been shuttered. We didn't want that to happen. So we're stepping in. We're receiving the revenue from the groups that are using it. We're going to be using that for continuing the landscaping, paying the electrical bill, paying the water, and utilizing the gym. So this is just a license agreement. That's why it was put on the consent calendar, because it has nothing to do with the development of the property. It's just so that we can continue those recreational purposes for a year extra, depending on how the development process goes through. I don't know the time frame, but I do know that the EIR is being done right now for the development. So that's the next time frame. There is information on our website about that development process. I encourage people to continue to follow that. But yes, this is not about the development, not about John and Dave or anybody else. It's about the city ability to continue to utilize the gym and provide those other recreational facilities for youth groups in the city.
Thank you, Mr. Domer. I want to say also that Lewis Development, and Lewis has built many, many homes and many tracks in the city of Laverne and has always done a very stellar job at that. So I think that will be a good plus for us. I know that the Amherst project changed hands and changed ownership twice. So it does happen, but they're great developers, and I really appreciate this as far as the license agreement. This is wonderful because there's kids up there all the time. We want to keep that thing open for as long as we possibly can. So I do appreciate that they're working with us on that. Mr. Crosby.
And just like we made agreement with Laverne Lutheran to use those buildings,
So the same thing.
the now owner is Lewis, so we make an agreement with them to be able to use those facilities.
Correct, yeah. So Lutheran High School, and there was a commercial property that it, or the seller foundry in between, we had an agreement with to use it, but that stopped December 31st. So we used the gym on a Saturday.
Closed.
And we kind of got like, hey, we need an agreement. This last weekend we had a interim one-day agreement that we entered into, and now with this, if approved, then we can have that agreement, that license agreement for the next year, make sure that all those things go forward.
Very good. Thank you for the explanation, and I appreciate the comments about our staff. We really do a very good job to try to explain things. And I do apologize on my half, Sherry. I kind of left it in the hands of City Manager Domer. I know you wanted to meet with us, but I think it's best that we go straight from Eric Shear and Ken Domer when it's dealing with properties and issuance with license agreements and things. It's out of my bailiwick, if you want to say. It's out of my wheelhouse, and I think it's important that we let our staff take care of that. So I wasn't skirting you. I was gone this weekend, and I think he had taken care of your issue and what your comments were. Yes, so we're good. Actually, we're actually closed. But thank you. With that, we have a motion.
Move to approve.
Vote, please. Councilmember Lau, would you please go get Mr. Johnson?
And I'll go ahead and report out. Item 5 from the consent calendar was approved 5-0 with Crosby making the motion and Councilmember Lau 4-0, sorry, and Councilmember Lau seconding. And Mr. Crosby recused himself. Mr. Johnson. Oh my gosh. I got to quit looking at you. Mr. Johnson. Mayor Pro Tem Johnson recused himself.
Wait, Santa Claus. What? It's your practice. Come on. How much practice do we need? Thank you.
No relations at all.
That might be one of the sons, because Randall Lewis wasn't. Yeah, might be the development. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think he's bringing cookies for it. Everybody's leaving. There we go.
All right, welcome back.
These cookies. He had to. Had to get his sugar. Right. Thank you. Good to see you again. Bye, guys.
Bye, Don.
See you at the next event. We now move to public hearings. Our first public hearing is for the Community Development Block Grant Program for 2025-2026. City Manager Domer, please call forward the staff member who will be reporting.
I'm going to call forward senior planner. No, did I get that wrong? Principal planner.
Principal planner.
Thought I had it right. The
Miss-
senior principal planner.
Miss Bocock, is he
Candace
ever going to
Bocock.
get that right? Principal
not.
planner.
Principal planner.
She worked hard for that.
She's my pal. Principal.
You know, we didn't fail her. Wait, I know principal planner.
I wouldn't correct him if he was giving me a promotion.
I was telling you a little scribbling
Right.
on there, and I'm going, oh, okay. Welcome.
right.
Good evening,
Well,
Principal Planner Bocock.
Good evening,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor and City Council members. Tonight I'm presenting the proposed allocations for the Laverne participation in the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, program for the fiscal year 2025-2026. This marks the 51st funding year of the CDBG program for the City of Laverne. The city is expected to be allocated approximately $151,000 in new CDBG funds for this next fiscal year. Additionally, we have about $40,000 left over from last year that we will be rolling over, giving us a total of about $190,000. So after thorough review of federal guidelines and community needs, staff recommends allocating $22,677 to the Senior Hot Lunch Program. This represents a maximum of 15% of the annual grant allowed for public service programs. This program has been successfully operating for over 20 years now, providing nutritious meals and social opportunities for low-income seniors in our community. It's also recommended that the remaining allocation of about $168,000 go to the sidewalk repair program. This program enhances accessibility for persons with disabilities, specifically for sidewalk repairs and the removal of any architectural barriers. One challenge we continue to face, and I tell you all this every year, that in the absence of census blocks within the city that meet the 51% low and moderate income threshold, this really limits our ability to undertake any area-wide improvement projects. So as part of the CDBG process, the public hearing provides an opportunity for residents to share their input on the proposed use of these funds. The recommendation before you reflects careful consideration of all federal requirements, community needs, and the availability of funds, including the rollover amount that I mentioned from the previous year. In conclusion, it's recommended that the City Council approved the attached resolution in front of you, allocating the funding to the Senior Hot Lunch Program and the Sidewalk Program. I am available from staff if you have any questions.
Thank you, Principal Planner Bocock. Thank you. We will bring you back up. I'm going to open up public comment right now. Anybody wish to speak on this item? We'll close public comment, and we'll bring it back up to the dais. Councilmember Lau.
I just want to say thank you to Candace and to staff and to Ken. I know we've had this discussion many times over the years about what do we do with this money and what can we use it for so we won't lose it or not, have it go to something fruitful. So thank you for figuring that out and for making sure that we can utilize the monies that we receive. So thank you.
You just echoed what I was going to say. Yeah, it's nice that we're using every penny and actually carrying it over and doing it now that we can use it for good stuff. So, Mr. Johnson.
Many years ago, we just used to sell those funds for pennies on the dollar. Always.
With that, any other comments from council? I'll take a motion. Second?
Second.
Vote, please.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, seconded by Cashel Fagita, and approved 5-0.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Principal Planner Bocock, for your great presentation. I'm just going to continue to say that so he finally gets it right, you know. Okay. Our next public hearing is a consideration of certifying a final environmental impact report, adopting environmental findings. Wait, sorry, nope. Yes, we're good. Environmental impact report, adopting environmental findings, adopting a statement of overriding considerations, and improving the City of Laverne general plan update policy document. City Manager Domer, please call forward the staff member who will be reporting.
I'm going to call forward Principal Planner Candace Boca.
I figured it would work.
Hello again. So tonight we consider a milestone for the City of Laverne, finally the adoption of our updated general plan, which serves as the blueprint for the community's future. The City of Laverne's general plan update reflects a comprehensive vision for the community's future, providing a policy framework to guide growth, development, and resource conservation while addressing local conditions, priorities, and state mandates. This update replaces the 1998 general plan and incorporates reorganized user-friendly elements. Extensive public outreach and input informed the plan and ensured alignment with community values. This plan, crafted with substantial community input, reflects our shared vision for growth, sustainability, and to quality of life in the City of Laverne. To present the details of the plan and the process, I'm pleased to introduce Amanda Tropiano with De Novo Planning Group, who has been instrumental in guiding this process over the last few years.
How's the baby?
Good, thank you.
How old?
8.5 weeks this week.
Oh
so
my God.
Not that I'm counting, but it's all good. Here we are.
Well, congratulations
so,
again.
Thank you. Well, I am excited to be here. So, Mr. Mayor and council members, thank you for having me here again tonight. As Candace had mentioned, this is certainly an exciting night for us to present to you officially the results of the community input and hard work of your staff and community members over the past several years. So, with that introduction, I will be going through an overview of the items before you tonight and certainly available to answer any questions you may have. So I'll go through a timeline. I think Candace was modest in describing it over the better part of the past several years. This has been certainly a significant effort that your staff has been committed to for the past several years. An approach to developing the general plan policy document, the process for reviewing that document, and then the environmental review that accompanied that. So starting back in 2017, this project was initiated with the understanding that it would largely be completed prior to the what was then upcoming 6th cycle housing element update. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But in 2017 and 2018, the city really focused on establishing a baseline of existing conditions, collecting relevant document and data information, and synthesizing that information into a community vision that really kind of crystallized where Laverne wanted to head over the coming few decades. Throughout 2018 through 2019, the city committed to meeting with the General Plan Advisory Committee numerous times, a dozen times, preparing a proposed land use map that would serve as kind of the foundation or cornerstone of the land use planning process, and then preparing a draft of the actual general plan policy document. So that's your goals, policies, and implementation actions. We'll go through those a little bit in a few slides for review by your General Plan Advisory Committee. So really the policy document before you tonight was reviewed, confirmed, edited, and modified by that citizens community group at that time. In 2020, the city may remember that it received its Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or its RHNA, from SCAG, which determined that the city needed to temporarily set aside the comprehensive general plan update and allow us to really focus on preparing an housing element, one of the chapters of your general plan, as required by the state to be updated on a certain schedule. And we really needed to give that some focused attention so that the city could receive certification from the Department of Housing and Community Development in order to maintain local land use control, receive access to funding, and stay in compliance with state legislation. So from 2020 to 2022, the focus of this effort was on receiving certification of your housing element, which we did achieve at that time. That allowed us in 2023 to restart or re-engage the comprehensive update to your general plan, prepare your notice of preparation of an EIR, prepare that environmental review of the policy document, and facilitate a public review of all of that material. And then that brings us to the later end of 2024, and then, of course, before you this evening, in presenting the documents at a joint study session, which I was in front of yourselves and the Planning Commission in September, and then presenting it at a series of public hearings, both to your Planning Commission as well as to other state agencies, including the Board of Forestry and Fire Protection and the County of Los Angeles Airport Land Use Planning Commission. So in focusing first on the policy document, what we're calling your general plan was last comprehensively updated in 1998. So some things have changed since then. I know that we have several community members here tonight and yourselves that have lived in the community since that time, and you can just look around and see those elements of the community that have changed since 1998. The general plan really articulates a vision and strategy, as Candace had mentioned, for the long-term future of Laverne and where it wants to head over the next 20 years. It establishes a series of goals and policies related to all of the topics that affect your daily life: land use planning, transportation, so how people get around, public services and facilities, the conservation of your natural resources, and goals and policies related to future growth. It provides a basis for elected and appointed decision makers to make decisions aligned with the community's values, and it allows the citizens, property owners, and other community stakeholders to understand where the city wants to head over that long-term horizon. There are three key components that go into preparing the policy document. First and foremost is public feedback. Every city and county in California has to have a general plan, but each one is customized to its local environment and conditions. Here in Laverne, through an extensive public outreach series, as well as the meetings with your General Plan Advisory Committee, we really were able to gather specific insight and input into these different topic areas and customize the policy direction in your document. We also have a number of state requirements that we need to address, new pieces of legislation that have been enacted since 1998 that your general plan must adequately address in order to continue to receive funding for different grants and programs, and to make sure that you're consistent with those requirements. And then we also, like I had mentioned, look at existing conditions. What is wonderful about your community? We heard a lot of great feedback from your community survey earlier this evening. The general plan reiterates those same wonderful qualities, finds ways to look for opportunities for improvement on those areas your community had mentioned, finding opportunities for focus. Specific to the public feedback, there continues to be a dedicated project website at laverne.generalplan.org. That's really the best opportunity to plug in, receive information on the project, including any past reports or documents that I discuss here tonight. There's digital engagement through your social media accounts, Nextdoor, direct emails. I think at our last check we had over 13,000 social media impressions, over 200 experiences through that. We hosted 3 in-person visioning workshops focused on the topics of land use, mobility, and vision and values. Held pop-up events at concerts in the park, at other community events that solicited input on a more informal basis. Facilitated an online vision and values survey. We had almost 1,000 responses to that, and all of this information is synthesized into a vision and values outreach summary report, which is on that project website. Really excited to have worked with a community group composed of different representatives of the Laverne community, everyone from representing your commissions and boards to people interested in historical preservation, active transportation, representatives from your mobile home community, your senior community, your youth community. This was really a wonderful cross-section of the Laverne community came together as part of your General Plan Advisory Committee. They met 11 times over the course of about 15 months, reviewing every topic included in the general plan, and then ultimately reviewing the actual policy document, the words on the page, to make sure that we recorded that information correctly and that we wrote it the way that they intended to provide that feedback. Provided a variety of briefings, opportunities to people like your business community, continued input through your city manager newsletters, briefings both to the Planning Commission and to the City Council. As part of the environmental review process, hosted a dedicated scoping meeting for that environmental review, a community open house in early September of last year, and then that joint study session with Planning Commission and Council that same month. In terms of state requirements, the California Government Code dictates the components that must be required as part of your general plan. There have been a number of recent bills, really over the past 10 years especially, that add to the topics that need to be addressed. They generally focus on issues related to housing, environmental justice, transportation, and climate change or resiliency planning. And in particular, should the city, have a general plan that does not address those topics adequately, it could impact the city's ability to access state, federal grant funding, and could also put you in legal jeopardy for non-compliance with the government code. Through the analysis of your existing conditions, we really looked at topics that are already addressed in your current general plan and gaps that need to be further addressed as part of this update. We identify the regulatory framework. We provided existing conditions information on things like existing traffic patterns, existing noise measurements. It includes maps, tables, charts, and text that kind of dictate those existing conditions. It's a companion document to your general plan. It provides a lot of background information, but it is not part of your general plan. What that means is that as soon as that information needs to be updated or there's more current information available, you don't have to go through a general plan amendment and bring it forward here to update current factual information. The policy document is what is in front of you for adoption. That existing conditions report provides that background and flavor. So the general plan policy document starts with an introduction that includes a community vision for Laverne. This is really synthesizes that information we had heard from the community and focuses on a lot of the ideas that we heard earlier in the community survey, which is great to hear, as maintaining Laverne as a thriving place to live, work, learn, and enjoy your life, preserving your small town charm, celebrating your vibrant old town, a special emphasis on your pride in youth and senior communities, that the community is family friendly, your neighborhoods are quiet, safe, and clean. You provide high quality community services with safe and efficient mobility options. There's a strong focus on local economic development, and that we don't have a crystal ball for every issue that Laverne may face over the coming years, but that you are proactive and forward planning when thinking about those strategic solutions. The general plan is structured into a series of chapters or elements. They include land use, economic development, mobility, resource management, public safety, community services, community design, fiscal sustainability, community health and wellness, and housing, as I had mentioned, which was updated under separate cover. I did want to point out that Laverne has included several optional elements to really highlight some areas of the community that warrant special attention. So not every community has or must have an economic development or fiscal sustainability element, or an element focused on community design or health and wellness. These are special to Laverne, they're customized for you, and they're really intended to help reinforce those qualities of the community that make Laverne so special. Each element includes goals, policies, and actions. Your goal is a statement of a future condition, so it's where you want to head, say it in a positive, affirmative way. So these are things that you're striving to achieve over the long term. Your policies are statements that dictate the city's role and responsibility in helping to achieve that goal. So as my staff will know, they always start with a verb. So the verb is kind of the important part of the sentence. It describes what action the city can and will take in helping to achieve that policy. And then there's a series of implementation actions. These are kind of your day-to-day checklist for staff, especially, to make sure that you're making progress towards achieving that goal. Part of the general plan is your land use map. This is the colors on the map that talk about what types of land uses can go where. The land use map prepared for this general plan update focused on reflecting the input that we had heard from the community. So first and foremost, preserving and protecting your existing residential neighborhoods and your open space areas. These are the reasons people come to live in Laverne. It's the reason why you see so many of your residents stay here for decades. These are hallmarks of your community, and they're preserved and protected with no changes proposed as part of this project. Future growth and opportunity are located along your corridors. These areas already have specific plans that guide future land use decisions. The general plan merely reflects those prior land use decisions as approved specific plans on the land use map. These are decisions that have been made over numerous prior decades, and those are reflected just consistently on the land use map. In order to do that, the land use map shows those specific plan areas as their own individual designations. And we do introduce some new residential designations to prepare for your next housing element, in particular, a high density residential designation. However, that designation is not applied anywhere on the map at this time. It is available for the city's use should it be necessary in order to maintain compliance with your housing element and maintain compliance with state housing law. It is available but not applied anywhere on the exhibit as a result of this particular land use map. There's also an opportunity to create other administrative edits, just fixing issues of the map that had kind of emerged since 1998. So just an opportunity to kind of clean up some of those inconsistent uses. We're required, in compliance with the state government code, to consider what would happen if all of your land uses developed to their maximum kind of density or intensity. So we were able to quantify what that would be. Again, this is very modest growth consistent with what's already allowed under your current general plan and your current specific plans. I do want to stress that when looking at those build out numbers, this is required to be analyzed as part of the government code. But in practice, property doesn't develop to its maximum capacity. There are just normal things like the shape of the lot, your development code standards, the financial feasibility of a project. Those are the types of things that dictate what actually gets built on a site. And as future projects are proposed in Laverne, they go through the standard planning review practice through staff, through your planning commission, and to the city council, according to your regular practices. The general plan update itself does not approve any projects or development on the land use map. We've seen, just based on historical averages, development, not only in Laverne, but in every community, occurs much lower than your maximum capacities, but this is a requirement of state law. So that brings us to the environmental review of a project, and you may hear us refer to it as an EIR. That's an environmental impact report. The EIR is an informational document. It identifies and discloses potential environmental impacts associated with implementing the project, and this is required by the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. It also provides an opportunity to identify ways to avoid or lessen the potential impacts of the project, and it's really an opportunity for disclosing to the public and to decision makers the potential impacts of the project, and allow the public to comment on those on that analysis and weigh in with their own insights, and allow that public process to occur as part of this work. The EIR does not advocate for or against the project. Again, it's a disclosure document. It's a tool that the public and yourselves can consider when reviewing the qualities of the project. No specific development projects are proposed, and future projects that would occur in Laverne need to go through that typical planning process, again, as I had mentioned. The environmental review process starts with preparing a notice of preparation of the environmental impact report. We solicit public comments on that for 30 days. Based on those comments and the standards of the California Environmental Quality Act, we prepare a draft EIR. That's facilitated for a public review of 45 days. Based on the comments received on that draft EIR, we prepare a final environmental impact report and then bring that forward with its supporting documents to the Planning Commission, to the City Council for your review and consideration. Most of the environmental topics discussed in the EIR have no impact or a less than significant impact when we consider implementation of the goals and policies of the general plan. However, there are 3 topical areas where we did identify that there are significant and unavoidable impacts related to air quality, greenhouse gas emissions, and transportation. Our firm prepares general plan updates for communities throughout the state, and I would just like to put it in perspective that nearly all general plans have these significant and unavoidable impacts associated with implementation of their plan, because by the nature of a general plan update, we are considering the long-term impacts of growth over 20 years, and these impact areas are typical as part of this planning process. In reviewing the draft environmental impact report, the city received 21 comment letters. The final EIR, which is provided to you as part of your package for review, provides a specific response to each of those comments. And we did want to highlight that through that review and analysis of those comments received, there were no new impacts or substantial increase in the severity of environmental impacts identified in the draft environmental impact report that warranted recirculation or modification of that draft EIR. We did also receive some late correspondence, and in particular, correspondence received just today, reiterating some of those similar topics from those prior comment letters. We have reviewed and considered those comments as well, and continue to find that there are no substantial new information or issues related to the draft environmental impact report or the analysis conducted that would warrant recirculation or modification to that analysis. So with that, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on October 9th of last year and recommended to the City Council approval of this project. On November 13th, the County of Los Angeles Airport Land Use Committee, or its ALUC, conducted a consistency review of this project against the Brackett Field Airport ALUCP as required by the government code, and found that this project is consistent with the ALUCP for Brackett Field Airport. And on December 10th of last year, the Board of Forestry and Fire Protection reviewed and approved the draft safety element, again, also required and consistent with the government code. And we really appreciated working directly with CAL FIRE and discussing the qualities of the public safety element in the general plan as it relates particularly to fire planning and resiliency planning, and again received their approval of that work at their December 10th meeting. That concludes my presentation. Your recommendation from staff has been provided for you for your consideration, and I'll be here to answer any questions you may have. I'm also joined by my colleagues, Starla Barker and Michael from Kittleson and Associates. Starla is able to answer any questions related specifically to the environmental review, and Michael is here representing our transportation planning and analysis. If any issues related to that, he's also available to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Any questions before we go to public comment? Thank you. We're going to go to public comment. And I'm going to open up public comment on this item. Do we have any people who wish to speak on this item? I'm going to open up public comment. Ms. Gabaldon.
Good evening, everybody. I'm trying to make this short and sweet because I'm probably the person who wrote the comment letter today, too. So this is in 2 parts because I didn't know that the presentation was going to be done on the survey. So there's some overlap there, and I didn't know about that earlier. So this is actually in particular my comments and then the actual response to comments to 5 of them in particular. First is the noise element. I brought up that there's no sensor location in the Amherst neighborhood area. And then the actual response was that, no, there is one at Fruit and the freeway, and there is not one at Fruit and the freeway. That's all the way down at Baseline and Foothill. So the Amherst neighborhood has no receptors for checking noise, and we do have a noise problem with the freeway, and it's because of the geography and the topography of the freeway. And you could ask anybody in our neighborhood, we hear it all night long, but it bounces, the way those sound walls work, it bounces up and over, and there's a ongoing issue with that, but the EIR is technically wrong. We do not have a receptor in our neighborhood. Something that was brought up, especially with the survey tonight, is small town. Small town is nowhere defined in the EIR or in the general plan. We need to have a definition of what small town is to us. That is probably the most specific element that we as the residents and the city council and the planning commission, and I brought this up at planning commission, should be asking for. It's nowhere in any of the documents. And that was labeled as essential in the survey tonight. So that is very, very important, and it's nowhere defined in there. The actual analysis would probably need to be adjusted based on that, but we need to have a small town definition. There's still no description or statement about the classification of residential streets. We actually have collector, and then you move on up to the larger streets, but there's nothing for residential, and we have true residential streets in the city that are smaller than collector. That has to get addressed because that's where some of our largest traffic issues are. Tall buildings were brought up, and that automatically moves over to high density. And it's interesting that she brought up the SCAG RENA numbers, that nobody really hits those. Everybody's hitting those now. It is absolutely happening in a lot of cities, and it's through the high density projects. And I'm going to bring up something more about that a little bit too. And then the influence and inclusion of other planned large regional projects. This was actually, my comment was actually deemed not impactful or actually required. And surrounding area here for this EIR, we have 10,000 units coming into the fairgrounds. And City of Pomona is bringing that in, and that has to be analyzed because their ingress and egress is going to be up and down white or fruit and white, and the impacts in there are going to be pretty significant. We're the main ingress for the freeway. And then I was going to say something else. So this is a little bit of digression. The past 3 weeks, we all know people have been impacted by the fires. I have 26 people in my life that lost their homes, family and friends, because I went to high school over there by Altadena. And I think everybody's got to be very serious about what general plans mean now. It's not for fluff. I see things in here about volunteerism and all that stuff like that, and I know that's fine and dandy, but that is not the reality of the world. We are not honestly prepared for any big emergencies, and I really, really hope everybody acknowledges that now. CERT team isn't going to save you. Our fire departments don't have enough people. There aren't enough people, period, to really deal with a really large emergency. We're one big earthquake away from having a massive equalizer, and everybody will be affected. And I really hope that people start taking documents like this much more seriously about the actual adult kind of decisions we have to make and how cities need to grow. High rises in areas where there's earthquake fault zones should not be around here. And that's like the structural element of it. That's not even just the privacy element and other things like that. One thing else about the RENA numbers that were included, and that was on one of the slides, and that was a comment to them, is that they actually rounded the numbers up, and we should not be doing that. We should be using the exact numbers because that gives a false sense of allowance for the housing. And if we're really only supposed to be at 1,279, then it should be 1,279, not rounded up to 1,400. The couple of other things that I brought up, and this is right out of the EIR document now, and this is because something I'm dealing with right now too. There's nothing on lithium batteries. I have been dealing with a fire over in Riverside for 2 months. Lithium batteries don't burn out, and it's very bad, and we have a lot of residential receptors at that location, and it has become a huge, much, much bigger issue than anybody thought. That, and I know that's a new thing, but there's that. There's a building that blew. This is all in the same time frame, about 8 weeks ago now. We have that building. There's a building in Almani that blew up. Moss Landing, if you don't know about Moss Landing, that is a massive, massive deal. What happened to Moss Landing for the 4th time that's burned. And then there's a bike shop, sadly, as part of the Altadena thing. The guy had 24 e-bike lithium batteries in the back of the place, and it blew up, and it won't go out. You can't put water on lithium. That's nowhere in there. That is kind of new, but with all the EVs that we have, that's something that needs to be addressed. And then also wildfires. This is on page 201. There should be more specificity in how we're dealing with the fire breaks around our jurisdictions. And this is something that a lot of people just kind of expected CAL FIRE to be handling all the time. But as we know, that's probably not been happening. And that is something that needs to be specifically addressed. And then conflicts with plans is another, and I'm skipping down. I'm really not hitting them all, I promise. Conflicts with plans. It's interesting that it talked about all these regional plans. Not once was local residents mentioned. There's not a single one mentioned about us in some of these sections. Actually, in that section in particular. Going back to transportation, and this goes into the 3 elements that she brought up in the slides about we have problems with transportation, and I forget what the other 2 were, but transportation was one of them. It's interesting that ULV is mentioned inside a problem area, but none of the residential streets are brought up. So it's like we're missing. We're the people that are missing in this general plan. And then lastly, there's another mention of wildfire at the very, very end of the EIR document. And it says that the state of California is actually responsible for the prevention and the suppression of wildfires in the SRAs. And I would kind of think that might not be working, and we need to look at that. And then just something for everybody to remember, throwing money at things doesn't mean you're going to fix it. That is very, very evident now. And we really need to look at what is our real plan, what are we really doing, because an organization, that is our goal here. And it might mean thinking out of the box, but the seriousness, especially, and I'm very partial to Altadena, but the seriousness of this has probably never been more evident. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gabaldon. Ms. Beauchamp.
I too wanted to discuss the claim of small town charm. It's part of the city motto, but it is not listed in those docs. She described it from when they did the workshops, and that's what people spoke of, and that's what they want to have in their city, but there's no real official description, as Cynthia just explained. Also, going back to transportation, and she spoke of the 10,000 units that are scheduled to be constructed at the fairground property. How is the city going to handle when the bridge is also built? For many people who aren't aware of the surrounding cities, Pomona City is, this is a rough estimate, but I'm going to say like 10 years out before they're insolvent. And then that will fall on Laverne because the majority of that bridge will be within our city. And so how does that affect the city in terms of financial responsibility? So I'm also concerned about the Gold Line and this entire transportation corridor with these additional units that will be built along the Arrow Highway. Obviously the first thing it would affect districts. We'd have to spend, the city's going to have to spend money on redistricting. So there's other things that I think are important that were not included in that. So I don't know the actual legality language. That would be city attorney job, but I think there's some things that need to be addressed here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beauchamp. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? We'll go ahead and close public comment. We'll bring it back up to the dais. Do we have Verne?
You may want to have a response from our environmental consultant.
Okay.
Darla.
I know there were a number of items that she mentioned, so.
I don't think she's going to go one by one.
No, okay. Just a general.
Hi, my name is Darla Barker at De Novo Planning Group. So I did want to respond to the comment regarding the noise measurement and the discrepancy. So the noise measurements were taken, I think the language says in proximity to that area. So it wasn't a noise measurement in that specific location that was being referenced. But noise measurements were taken throughout the city, short-term and long-term noise measurements. Really to understand the ambient noise associated with not a significant receptor, so not specifically related to the freeway. It was really to have an understanding what is the noise environment throughout the city and what's the primary contributor to noise, which tends to be transportation, mobile noise sources, traffic. So, but in regards to the actual noise modeling that was conducted as part of the environmental impact report and the noise analysis, that did look at all the roadway segments and looked at the traffic and the trips related to noise associated with the roadway segments themselves. So that's a larger, broader area. So that's kind of the difference between the actual just kind of on the ground existing at that time noise versus the model noise that really looks at that build out that we're talking about if development were to occur, the trips associated with that development, then what would the noise be along those roadway segments, and how might they infringe upon into the land uses along those roadways?
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just a quick response on the safety issues and all that stuff. Where the general plan does touch upon that, that's going to be more so covered in the local hazard mitigation plan. That's really a comprehensive look at many different things: seismic, fire, flood, everything like that. We do have a grant for that. The RFP went out late last year, and we should be bringing an award of contract at the second meeting in February to City Council for consideration, and then we'll start that process of putting together that local hazard mitigation plan that will look at all those safety issues.
What about rounding up the arena numbers? A question on that? Yeah.
The slide that was presented as part of the presentation is just used for informational purposes in a public setting. It was not listed as the RENA numbers. It was a growth projection, which is distinctly different than your regional housing needs allocation. Your housing element, which includes specific information on your RENA, includes the actual RENA allocation and plans specifically for your exact RENA amount. That is different than what the general plan considers, which is growth over the next 20 years. So in that case, for public information purposes on the screen, we did round to the nearest 500 degree, but the actual environmental impact report considers the specific build-out analysis included in the document. So just to be clear, we aren't rounding the RENA numbers or planning for a rounded RENA number. Your housing element reflects your actual RENA. The general plan update considers community-wide build-out over 2 decades. That regional housing needs allocation is just for the next 8 years.
Our SCAG numbers, Rena, are correct.
Absolutely.
Okay, it was just a part of the other one.
And that would make sense that your general plan has more, because you're in 8 years you're going to, now 4 years, we're going to get new RENA numbers.
Okay, well, it will change. Yes, thank you.
Any
Was there
other-
any other? Oh, the Fairplex, Mr. Domer. If you can excuse me for 1 second.
The number, are you referring to the number of units in the Fairplex? That's in Pomona, is it not? That's not within the city of Laverne's jurisdiction.
There's a
on
small
that.
portion.
It's a small
Yeah,
portion.
There's a small portion that is along Arrow Highway. That's in the city of Laverne, and we're currently working in. The plans are changing, but that's about 363.
Yeah, that's not the 10,000 units.
No,
That's not what
no.
this.
So.
And my understanding is that we've not received an update from the Fairplex, and there was multiple issues related to county, what land is leased, who owns what land. So there is no imminent arrival of 10,000 units, is my understanding, and that
Correct, yeah.
we're supposed to be kept
my
in the
understanding,
loop.
their specific plan, which they don't even have approved yet, is, again, a 20-year time frame of potential amount of units. So my understanding, they still got a long way to go to even get that specific plan approved.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson and myself were at that meeting. This was probably, what was it, years ago, when they actually proposed it and the development and what they were doing, and it was quite a bit of discussion from the residents that this is a huge development and it's going to impact many, many lives. So at the end of the day, we don't know. We have no idea what's going on with it. It's a proposal. It's going to take a long process, and we really don't know anything else about it except for what the proposal was, and it's been dead silence since then.
Yeah, and I think part of that is because of all the issues with who owns the land, who's leasing the land. Who
You mean
has
LA County?
Right.
Yeah,
so I
just
think
little things like
it's
that.
going to be a long time before they unravel all
They
of
got
that.
a lot of reverberation that people were not very happy with that. You had.
I was just going to add, not specific to, I think that part of the comment is in regards to that there's what we consider in the CEQA world is cumulative, development. Other things are going on, around the city. And so there is an analysis for each environmental topical area in the EIR that does address that. And it does look at what is the regional growth projections within the area from the SCAG region and the local area. So there is consideration for the fact that there's other development going on, within the surrounding communities as well. Obviously, site-specific development projects that are unknown at this time would be speculative, and we cannot include something like that in the EIR. But just for clarification, that is considered the regional growth, not just the growth associated with the city.
What about the city charm? They mentioned about not mentioning the city charm. Small town, small town. Charming. We are all charming.
Yes. So, I remember standing in front of the city council at the beginning of this process 7 years ago, saying that, our goal was to make you feel like this was customized and unique to Laverne when we got to this adoption discussion. So we do hope that your policy document is highly reflective of your local needs. There are numerous policies, goals, and actions in your general plan policy document that describe the qualities that comprise what we felt reflect a small town. So that small town charm reflected specifically the feel of your community neighborhoods, your programs, your activities, focus on your youth, focus on your senior communities, just the friendly, family-friendly atmosphere of your neighborhood. So the policy document, I think, significantly does describe that, starting first with the community vision statement, which in the first sentence says that this document is committed to maintaining your small town charm and goes on to describe the qualities of that. The environmental impact report, if you can't tell, is a bit of a drier document. This is not something that community small town charm plays a role in the technical analysis of the potential impacts associated with these topical areas. However, the EIR does include a list of project objectives, meaning what are the foundational components of this project that must stay consistent that we're considering. One of those is preservation of your small town charm. So the policy document, which you get to add a lot more flavor to, does describe a small town feel and does provide direction on maintaining that, but the environmental impact report rightfully does not, other than a reflection of it in its objectives.
Thank you.
And on page 10 of our survey that we got before that, it says small town charm and traditions, and then it defines it. Many residents appreciate Laverne's small town atmosphere, community events, and traditions such as 4th of July, parade, Santa visits during Christmas, and heritage events. The city is viewed as a great place to raise a family with pride in its history and close-knit community feeling. That was from our earlier document. But agree that it is very hard to define small-town charm. I bet you in the mid-'70s, before these houses were all built, where I live, their small-town charm was much different than ours is right now. And since my house was built in 79, and that definition, I think, just keeps moving and changing a little bit, too.
Any other comments? I just want to say that this has been a long process, and it's been, and the engagement was wonderful, and I appreciate our members and also Principal Planner Bocock, and did I say Principal Planner Bocock? Just checking, just making sure. No, I think this is a lot of work, and we really appreciate all the efforts, all the input from our committees, all the effort from our residents, and as any document, it will change also as our housing elements are changing, and we have a new administration in now that things will change as they come through, and that's going to change. So, but I think you've done a really, really good job in explaining our city and how it is, and we are a special little city. But it's a tremendous amount of work from our staff, a tremendous amount of work, and not to say financial impact too. It costs a lot of money to do this. We need to do it. It's required, and I appreciate all those that input and put into this, and did a very good job. With that, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
yes,
we'd like to read the titles of the resolutions.
Oh, please.
Actually, into
you go
the
right
record. Ahead. The first one would be resolution of the City Council of the City of Laverne certifying a final EIR SCH 2023040002, adopting environmental findings, adopting a statement of overriding considerations pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act for the City of Laverne General Plan and Zoning Ordinance update. So that's your CEQA resolution. And the second resolution is, oh, actually, you have the resolution. That's the plan. We're trying to grab a hold of it. Candace, do you have the two resolutions? Sorry. And you guys don't mix. Okay. Yeah, do you have a heart? No, I've got it on mine. We're trying. For the other. No, that's the one we did, was the other one. I want to make sure it was in the.
We need some Jeopardy music.
Doo, doo.
Where are they? We don't get out much. If I'm not mistaken, we're looking for the
We're
resolution
looking
for the Planning
attachment
Commission.
3. No,
Right,
not for the Planning Commission. Your resolution actually approving the general plan update.
Oh, I think he's going to get it right now.
I heard that. We can go ahead and take the vote on the CEQA resolution.
Let's do the CEQA resolution. Can I have a motion for the CEQA resolution? Yes.
Really? No.
No, we already read it.
So move.
Let's go. Second?
Second.
Resolution.
Second?
Second.
Vote, please.
JR, get ready.
This is the first CEQA resolution.
For the CEQA resolution, it was moved by Crosby, seconded by Cashel-Fagita. That was approved 5-0.
We found it.
Wait, I.
Page
Would you believe?
400 of the agenda packet is a
Of course.
it's a resolution of the City Council of the City of Laverne approving the City of Laverne general plan update and making certain findings.
Do I have a motion for the resolution that was just stated?
Yes.
Motion?
Yes.
Do I have a second? Vote, please.
Yeah. JR.
Now go burn a tree.
The resolution on the general plan update, am I getting that correct?
Why?
Was moved by Councilmember Cashel-Fagita, seconded by Lau, and approved 5-0.
Thank you all for your comments on that, and thank you again to our consultants and Principal Planner Bocock. It's a lot of work. Thank you. Now we move on to other matters. There are several items tonight. First is the incidental outdoor sidewalk dining and furniture policy. City Manager Domer, please call for the staff member who will be reporting. Director Scheer, good evening.
Yes, I'm going to call forward Eric Scheer, Director of Community Development.
Unless you wanted to handle it.
No.
Yeah. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Tonight, we are discussing an incidental outdoor sidewalk dining and furniture policy for Old Town Laverne. In 2019, the city had adopted a policy regulating on-street placement of tables, chairs, and other various items within the Old Town Laverne district. And that was late 2019. And right when the city began the educational campaign to try to start enforcing the policy is obviously when the COVID pandemic began. That changed everything in terms of the use of outdoor space in Old Town specifically. including the closure of D Street, where all regulations were relaxed and businesses were allowed to operate outside. At the same time, the state also relaxed laws relating to outdoor serving of alcohol in conjunction with the COVID pandemic requirements. When the City Council in 2021 voted to reopen D Street to vehicle traffic, the council also permitted any businesses that had been occupying outdoor space to continue to occupy that space and/or even apply to locate in parking spaces in the street with the parklet. The only business that did follow up on that was Cafe Wong, who still has a patio today. That was approved for at the end of 2024. The DIBID board voted 3-2 to recommend that the City Council at the beginning of 2024, the Old Town Laverne Business Improvement District voted to recommend that the City Council revoke that permit that was granted to Cafe Wong and allow them to keep the patio until the end of 2024. At your meeting on June 17th of 2024, the council heard a lot of different public comment regarding this issue, specifically regarding that patio, and then provided staff with the direction to come back with an updated outdoor dining policy, and then provided that the restaurant could continue to utilize the parklet at least until the summer of 2025, provided the new policy document was approved and new standards were put in place. So staff has revisited the policy, and predominantly it's the same as what was approved in 2019, but we did update some things specifically related to parklet build-out because that wasn't considered before, as well as looking at making sure we were consistent with the lease rates that we charge for all businesses in Old Town Laverne. So a couple of highlights. All businesses in Old Town would be allowed to utilize 2 tables and 4 chairs or up to 6 square feet of display areas without having to pay the city a lease amount. There would be still a permit required for that and necessary insurance to be in the public right-of-way, but there wouldn't be a monthly fee or anything because they would be allowed to have that amount of space within the front of their business. If a business wished to have more than 2 tables and 4 chairs or more than 6 feet of display racking or other kind of displays, then they would have to enter a lease agreement in addition to the insurance and the permit and everything else. And then that would be a specific rate that they would be charged per square foot of area that they would be utilizing of city public space. Staff, along with the finance department, thank you for your support, Christy, did do a survey to try to determine what current market rates were being charged for outdoor dining, specifically for businesses. And, it's not 100% consistent with the surveys, but we did do a pretty robust effort, and we found that the rates that we would be charged would be under the market rate. So we're not trying to make money or be competing with commercial centers that charge their tenants for outdoor space. But we are, still within the same ballpark as what a lot of other agencies charge. One of the other things that was identified was that some cities do charge a higher rate to those businesses that serve alcohol, just because typically there's more liability if there is alcohol involved. And while there is insurance, it's still something that, generates some businesses more money as well. So staff did take that approach. And so if anything was over the 2 tables and 4 chairs or 6 square feet, businesses that serve alcohol would be assessed at a rate of 90 cents per square foot of area used, and then businesses without would be at 70 cents a square foot. In addition, if a business did have a parklet, those parking spaces that were public parking and now no longer usable, so we used the agreement that was recently approved by the council for the use of the Church of the Brethren's parking lot for public parking and reversed it basically to give a dollar value for each space that the city basically is paying for maintenance of that lot to provide public parking to our commercial businesses and residents and shoppers. And if a business were to take away spaces otherwise, that we assigned at the same rate, which is $250 a space annually. So that'd be an additional on top of the lease rate if a business decided to occupy a parking space. The Old Town Laverne Business Improvement District held a meeting on June 6th, where the draft policy was discussed at length. After that discussion, the board voted to recommend that the council approve the policy as written, with one caveat, one addition, in that that the maximum number of parking spaces for each block per each side of the street that could be occupied by a parklet would be 20%, to make sure we didn't have an entire side of a street or a block that would be fully taken away by parking. So that was a recommendation by that board. That's been added to the policy, a draft AR, to be consistent with what the Old Town bid recommended. There's also, as I mentioned, specific design requirements for public safety on parklets to provide vehicle crash protections and other design features, distance requirements from adjacent spaces or from parking or for sidewalk seating, to make sure that we have something in place that's a little bit more robust than what we had before. That was also working with the JPIA to make sure that our insurance company was comfortable with what our policies were for this activity. We did send this draft policy out to all businesses via email on the 24th. I personally hand-delivered a copy of it on the 26th to every business that currently has seating in the right-of-way or an existing business that might not be in the sidewalk but has a lease agreement to use public property for their business outdoor dining spaces. So we did provide that to them for comments. To date, we have not received any written comments regarding the policy, but as I mentioned, the board did recommend approval. So for those businesses that do wish to use more than what's allowed by right, those would require separate lease agreements that would come back before the city council for separate approval, most likely on consent, but it would take council action to approve those. So what staff's plan at this point is to work with these businesses that have been occupying the sidewalks, make sure they're aware of what the new rules are, provided the council approves this policy document, and then work with them to get a new lease agreement in place, and then back before you with the anticipation of have those all going into effect on July 1st. So for the next 5 months or so, basically we continue to allow them to utilize the spaces as has been since COVID, but to make sure they're aware, and most importantly, though, we will be working with them to get their insurance in place first and foremost, regardless if they're going to expand or have the limited area. But then that way the businesses know that they have a deadline to basically get into a lease agreement with the city or decide to pare back if they're over that 2-table, 4-chair designation. So we've also included in the packet all the application forms, all the information that we worked hard. Former planner Gabriel Rivera did a lot of the work on this, so I wish he was here to give you the presentation, but he's no longer with the city. But he did spend a lot of time working with the other departments, Public Works, Fire, Police, like I said, JPIA, Finance. Pretty much everybody's been involved with this and the drafting of it. And so with that, we're recommending that the City Council basically approve the policy and allow staff to then work with the businesses to make sure that we're getting them on board so we have a consistent and fair approach to everybody. Everybody's being charged the same lease rate, and they have some time to get that stuff together if they wish to move forward. I'd be happy to answer any questions if the council has it.
Thank you, Director Scheer. I think we'll go to public comment first, then we'll bring it back. Open up public comment on this item. Do we wish to speak on this? With that, we're going to move it back up the dais. We'll close public comment. Mr. Crosby.
You spoke about parking and sidewalk, but also included is space of we own, like warehouse patio.
Yes.
And
yes.
4th Street Mill.
So So we technically have 4 businesses that are currently utilizing city-owned property that's not a sidewalk or a parking space. Warehouse Pizza being the oldest. Lordsburg would be the next oldest. 4th Street Mill, and then lastly, Exactly has a small portion of their outdoor patios on the sidewalk. So those are the 4, and so I guess that's technically a sidewalk. But those have current lease agreements in place. Some of those are currently month to month, so those could be renegotiated immediately. Others do have some time left on their agreements. The council just did approve a 1-year extension on the warehouse agreement back in October of 24. So we'll work with them, but technically if they wish to wait till October of 25 to renew and then they would be brought under the new rates, they would be allowed to. But we will make sure, try to get everybody on the same timeline as best we can. But some of them do have existing agreements that will remain in place until those can be renegotiated.
And if things were built there, kind of like in the parking stalls or Allegro, the stuff's been built there, that's all been approved by the city.
Correct.
Prior to the building too.
Yeah, all the improvements that are out there today that you see minus portable tables and chairs have been officially approved by the city.
That's what we're allowed.
If I remember correctly, there were, when we were investigating and looking into all of this in the beginning, there were some entities that weren't up to date on their leases or weren't paying or whatever. Are we current on that now?
We were waiting for the direction on this policy
Okay.
to make sure that, because the lease rates and everything else, we just put that into this policy now. So provided the council gives us direction to move forward, we will then work with everybody to be in place and be consistent by July 1st.
I thought we had agreements with some of these folks. Am I
Again, some are month to month and some are beyond July 1st. So depending on the current agreements, we will have to wait until their current agreements are up, or ones that are up that we can plan to renew. They're still paying us their rate of what was previously approved.
That's what I mean.
They're
So
going
they're
month to
current
month.
right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some businesses that have used spaces that haven't paid rent at all and don't have agreements. So that also will be fixed.
Okay. And so if they don't have an agreement, they don't have insurance. Is that what you're telling me?
Correct. That indemnifies the city, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, we need to get that fixed.
That's
ASAP,
what the
please.
first priority. We're not going to wait until July 1st for
Thank
the
you.
insurance requirements for everybody, whether that be
Thank you.
2 tables and 4 chairs or a full patio within the city's property to make sure everybody has the current, and we made sure with JPI that we have the correct language for the most recent insurance for this type of.
Thank you.
Eric, has there been any interest expressed to add more parklets by any of the downtown?
No, in 2021, when the city council voted to open, the council made it clear that all businesses were eligible to apply for and build out their parklets. Since that time, only the Cafe Wong has expressed an interest to be in the parking spaces. Obviously, there's other businesses that have been utilizing the sidewalk area, but those parklets are expensive to construct, and so that's one of the caveats of deciding to do that or not do.
I want to say I really appreciate all the efforts. I know this has been, it's been difficult at best, especially to get everyone together on the same page, and I know there's been some contention. Mayor Pro Tem Johnson and myself watch over the committee, and I make it very clear to them that this is a decision they have to make, not us as a council. We want to approve what works best for their businesses, because as Councilmember Johnson and myself are business owners, it's very important. And during COVID, our city was so ready to go to block down the streets and make sure that the businesses survive. And that was really the only reason they survived, was the fact that we opened those streets up. But at the end of the day, it's what the Downtown Improvement Business District, they voted for, and we're pushing this forward, and this is what they wanted. I'm just very glad, as Councilmember Lau stated, we need to make sure that we're gentle with the costs as far as leasing space. But at the end of the day, it is a city space, and insurance is extremely important. Whether it be food sales or alcohol sales, that we make sure that we capture that. And I know we're going to do that now. And this is like we're going through, as Mr. Domer, as City Manager Domer came on, that we're trying to go through all of our different systems to make sure that all of our contracts are up to snuff. We're make sure that we're charging correctly, make sure the insurance is covering, same as community services, to make sure that everybody's doing the right thing and we're on the same page, so that it protects the city, protects the residents that come here. But it's a lot of work, and I appreciate it. I know that it was not an easy task with our improvement district. There was some differences of opinions in outside dining and in the stalls and things like that, but I do appreciate that. So with that, I will accept a motion.
I move to approve the incidental outdoor sidewalk dining and furniture policy.
Second. Vote, please.
That item was moved by Crosby, seconded by Cashel-Fagita, and was approved 5-0.
Very good. Thank you again. Next item is the order contract for the citywide video management system improvement project. City Manager Domer, please call for the staff member who will be reporting.
Going to bring forward Cody Howing, our city engineer, who has been instrumental in this RFP.
Hi,
Appreciate
guys.
that it's where it's at.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Yes, this item is the award of contract for the citywide video management system improvement project. This evening's recommendation to Council is to first reject the bid submitted by Cell Plan Technologies. Second, award the Public Works construction contract to Convergent Technologies for base bid items A1 through 8. and additive alternate items number B7 through B9 for a total amount of $612,324.97. And finally, authorize the Public Works Director or designee to issue change orders not exceeding 18% of the construction budget for a total possible construction contract cost $764,543.46. So, first off, a few items I'd like to highlight to council, and most importantly, this project was made possible by a grant that the city received in the amount of $500,000 from a program called Community Oriented Policing Services, or COPS, through Congresswoman Napolitano. That was received in fiscal year 23, and so through this process, we've been working with that budget, among a few other options, to add to help fortify and fill out the budget of what was proposed for award this evening. The project scope. As the title might allude, this is a video management system project. Throughout the city, there are a number of intersections with surveillance cameras that exist. And while those have been a great and fantastic tool for public safety to continue to monitor what's going on out and about throughout the city, with time, things come to the end of their service life, and we are looking forward to leveraging new technologies to help enhance that system's functionality for the public safety departments in their process. The base bid items A1 through 8 replace more or less the existing system at the intersections, and the additive alternate items B7 through B9 expand that system to also add 4 additional cameras at Los Flores, the Aquatic Center. Now, one thing I want to highlight to council is that the plan would be to continue to look for opportunities of grant funding to further expand surveillance. Within the bid, if you happen to take a look at the bid summary, there are a lot of bid items in there. Within that, there were 14 additional city facilities that we put out in the bid to kind of see what the pricing was, see what might fit the budget. And so not all of them, well, frankly, only one of them made the cut with the current budget. But that goes into why number 3 is such an important item for the recommendation, is we do have some additional funds. We want to stick within our means and stay to that hard number, but we are requesting the authority to spend up to that number and try to negotiate with the contractor and see where we can expand this project to add a few more cameras if that so works out. So that concludes my report. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Cody. Appreciate that. We're going to open up public comment. I think we have a card here for Eric Freeling. Did I say that right? Frecking. Very good. Okay. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Good evening, citizens of Laverne. Don't hold it against me. I'm a citizen of Glendora, so I'm a next door neighbor to you. We are often very competitive, so this is the reason why Allied Universal is part of Allied Universal Technology Services. And basically, prior to this bid, we met in this room on the 20th. On the 20th, they sent out just the attendee list of all the 9 vendors that showed up. During that meeting in person to Cody and city staff, we requested access to the intersection enclosures that mitigate all our risk of doing cable fiber connections out to your cameras. That was discussed. Your vendor is a contracted vendor who has the key to those units. So then later that day, and I have the email, so I sent it to Andrea and Cody. Allied Universal Technology Services would like to review the existing conditions of the intersection enclosures. Can we check out a key from Public Works to save the city any cost with their vendor, or schedule a time to review the enclosures this week or early next week? Once again, the 20th. The next week was Thanksgiving. The following week, the bid was due on Tuesday at 10 a.m. You gave us 6 days to give you a quality number of $600,000. You're not getting best numbers at all. From Convergent or Cell Plan, I compete against them all the time. Your numbers and how your buckets are set up, there's no definition of what you're spending per camera, per cable, per router, per connection device. There's no ongoing maintenance for the system. There's no return on your investment. So I'm asking you to postpone re-engage the 9 people that attended the mandatory walk, welcome us to the visit of the enclosures so we can give you an apples-to-apples bid. If you look at the bids that you got from Cell Plan, they mentioned they were low bid. That's not true. Cell Plan bid $900,000 just for your top items. Convergent came in at $1.2 million. Just throwing rough numbers at sites, I guarantee you they likely didn't even see, just because nobody had the time. Nobody had time to visit. One key item that played into all this was your COPS grant. I give kudos to the chief and his staff for going out to the COPS grant. It's a great source of funding for you folks. But to that, your COPS grant just expired on 12/31/2024, unless the chief requested an extension of that $500,000. If it was extended, what was that date? Are you still within these tight parameters? You also posted on the bid, and I'm running out of time. You also posted on your bid that you had 70 days to go execute this work. You also asked the vendors to accept a $500 liquidated damage per day. We were not done. So I don't want to impact the chief's hard work of getting your $500,000, but in the notes from Cody, he says you now have a whole nother year to perform this work, which it'll take less than 2 or 3 months. I ask you to just reconsider, put it back out, and get good quality bids from all vendors. One other thing, just minutia. Your bid called out for a C7. Convergent is a C10 contractor. There's minutia where you ask a question to have C10 cover C7. Allied Universal, we're a A, B, and a C10, so we can encompass all work. Some of this work I think you guys aren't considering for your park locations is trenching high tower poles to get the cameras high enough to get a vast range of coverage. You mentioned fires up in the hillsides. Cameras are now being utilized to capture smoke ventilation coming up from your hillsides for early detection. There's a lot of stuff to consider. So part of this should be a security technology plan for your city for 5 years. Because these costs that you're observing now, you haven't had this cost for 10 or 15 years. The chief is going to need another $500,000 for a real-time crime center. He's going to have, the new ones are drone as a responder program, another $500 to $1 million. There's large items that come into this that I think between your small city, city of Glendora, other surrounding cities, you can share cost of some of these things, communicating and working together. Similar to what you're doing with your flock safety system. Flock only captures LPR. It does not do any real-time recording for you. It does do you no good to capture incidents at your intersections, okay? Allied Universal is a partner with Motorola Solutions, the leader in police, CAD systems, mapping systems, response programs. We're also partners with Fuchsius, which will intake flock safety, Genetec, a Vigilon Motorola solution cameras. We're product agnostic. We want to give you, your staff, everything, the tools to make you respond faster and better for your citizens. So I just wanted to point out some recognitions. Another one was a C31. It's a licensed traffic control. You're doing traffic control. I don't know if Convergent or Cell Plan listed a C31 traffic control subcontractor to do that work. We went to your local neighbor here, Right Way, over here in San Dimas as our partner. Crosstown Electrical, who does all the work for Caltrans, was our other partner. And then another thing for funding, I think you should also look at Caltrans, the county, because some of them are responsible for your intersections as well. So I think you're missing out on funding options for you. One other thing he didn't cover was the ongoing cost of the Genetec software. Similar to Windows, everything goes up month over month, year over year. There's ongoing costs that haven't been accounted for. Maintenance hasn't been accounted for. So I would just look to you to budget. One of the big things was cloud. Right now, you're using Wi-Fi technology instead of fiber, communicating your cameras from intersection to intersection. You're looking to go 5G and use AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile for the FirstNet response. That's a data cost. Every single video going up is going to cost you on a monthly basis. You got to look into those costs as well. I just ask you to give it a couple weeks, but it all depends. Like I said, your funding may expire. You have a date to get it all accomplished by. I don't want to impede that at all.
Thank you, Mr. Fricking. I appreciate that. Thank you. Anybody else on public comment? We'll close public comment and bring it back to the dais. Yeah, Cody, if you could comment on this.
Sure. So at the time of the bidding process, we were in the process of looking to get the funding extended. The tight window was still in existence, and so to address that first concern of access to the traffic cabinets, we had discussed at the time with Director McWade of whether that would be a good idea or not, because opening those cabinets and creating another meeting with the holiday in close proximity to the the bid opening, could have possibly soured the bid and expose us to causing the bid to extend. And so had not everybody been available, had not everybody been noticed on that pre-bidders list that was qualified to attend such a meeting, we were concerned that action, while acknowledging could be helpful to the bidders, could also cause damage to the schedule. In that kind of calculation is it's a traffic cabinet, and so there's pretty common things that you find in traffic cabinets. Having looked into many myself, there's certain nuances that might differ from each one. But nonetheless, we were confident that the conditions of our traffic cabinets would not, be different from what would be expected from those. So weighing the risks with the schedule, that's why we made that decision. As far as some of the other comments on the technology, the city's IT department as well as IT consultants have been closely worked with on this. A lot of, nearly all of the content of the specs with respect to the technology side were derived with their help. Admittedly, I'm a civil engineer and not an IT person. So working with those experts in that field subject matter, we put together something that we felt was going to be functional. Could additional information procured additional bids, that might be the case, but that would have also taken additional time. So again, up against the crunch of time, certain decisions were made to move forward to, of course, protect those grant funds. In that, I believe that we have gotten an extension after the fact of those bid opening, and so we are in a different position today. It is approximately a year, I believe, City Manager Domer, if not mistaken, on the extension of what we've got. But we do have some more time. Now, one thing I would add is the intention is not to slow down, because this is an asset to public safety, and to get it built as soon as possible. That would be the goal, regardless of time. And plus, we don't want to necessarily push the project up closer to the end of the grant deadline for risk of any further exposure to losing those grant funds.
So the grant is still in effect?
The grant is still in effect, yes.
Then end of the year?
I don't have that particular date. Yes, the end of the year.
I mean, okay, I'm going to put on my contractor hat now.
Yes, sir.
Contractors have certain license qualifications that are specific to each individual trade.
Yes.
And you need to utilize those, because that is where you save your money. You have specialty contractors that have either a C10 or a B or whatever the case may be. Those contractors are specific, especially an electrical contractor, data contractor, signal contractor, that do these jobs. I always like to see multiple bids with multiple just general information. But, I mean, we have someone coming in here right now. Now, I don't know him, Mr. Frecking, from anywhere, but at the end of the day, I mean, we have some time. I'm not opposed to have bids and bring those people in and open these cabinets up. If I was a contractor, which I am, electrical contractor, I want to open everything up to see the condition of everything there, to see what we have. My job as a contractor is to give you the best possible price and the best bang for your buck. But also at the same token is to value engineer, to say, okay, what are we going to have? How long is this going to last? What are the reoccurring costs? And I'm not picking apart. You guys did a great job. I'm not saying that. But the point is that we have time now. I think we should be very thorough. If we're going to spend the money, let's spend the money on something. If we have to add components, unless the chief is against that right now, but I think we might have pushed some things aside, and we should have probably taken a little more time and gone to open up those cabinets, make sure that what we're getting make sure that the products that we're getting, make sure the vendors we have, and spend that grant money as well and expeditious as possible, but also get something that we can add on to. We can and like say the partnerships. We have a ton of partnerships with all of our agencies. And if one agency does one thing and we do another, and they're not communicating together, that's not good. So, but my point is that my own personal feeling is I think we should probably extend the bid and we should bring those people back into play, unless it affects what we're doing. And I'm not saying you guys didn't do a good job. I'm just saying it has questions for us and for me. Council.
Just out of curiosity, is this the first time that you're hearing of these issues being raised?
This is not the first time that I'm hearing of the concern of the traffic cabinets, but as I mentioned, that was reviewed and discussed in terms of how that would put the bid at risk. The other concerns, we had a pre-bid meeting with a number of the bidders, received a number of questions, particularly on the bid documents, and I believe we responded to a number of them, if not all. I'm trying to recall if there was anything in particular. Certainly like items of cell connections, data costs, those were reviewed with our IT consultants and the city IT staff. They've reassured us that they can get unlimited data plan SIM cards. And that cost in that regard was not necessarily as much of a concern because, interestingly enough, I believe the city, as it's been explained to me, gets better rates in that world. As far as the Genetec software, that's something that I know Chief Gonzalez has looked at through a number of agencies. I believe there's two major players in the market. There might be more, but there was at least two major players in the market with that video management software that they looked at and decided that that was the best one that suited their needs. So there were a number of things discussed. I would want to play back the video to say absolutely everything was addressed, but to my recollection, I think most of that stuff was addressed through the bidding process in the pre-bid meeting, as well as through internal discussions with city staff and the IT team. And so, yes, I believe we've looked at it at complete in terms of those items.
And you said that Chief Gonzalez has looked at this. I'd like to hear his perspective on it as well.
Sure.
Good evening. Yes, I have reviewed it as well, and with it again, we relied heavily on the recommendations from IT, and we did several tours to several cities reviewing the technology, and the one that was highly suggested was Genetec, and that is one of our future is expanding that program and the way it connects with everything. That is the recommendation that we took, and I personally went out to several agencies to review that and talk to other chiefs and captains about it, and agree with the recommendations that Cody made. Mm-hmm.
Chief, while you're there, if we did reject this, what does this do and open up the bids again? What does this do for you?
It further delays what we need. Now, granted, we have had a faulty camera system now for quite a few years, and oftentimes we get requests, either PRA requests or things of that nature. Insurance companies request certain intersection data that we don't have. We want to remain transparent, and our ability to remain transparent, although there's cameras there, some are not working, and oftentimes people view that as we're not being transparent. It's just a matter of we have old technology in different intersections that we're trying to now update to provide that. That plus it factors in our ability to deter crime in certain areas where people know that there's no cameras there and so forth. The other component of that is having these cameras at specific intersections with our communication center watching the cameras and our watch commander watching the cameras. If there's ever an incident at a specific corner where someone makes a description, maybe a person with a gun or whatnot, our watch commander and or our dispatch center can zoom in and say, hey, that is not a gun. That is maybe a baton from the school or whatnot. And then we could tell the police officers, hey, slow your roll and de-escalate that prior to their arrival, because anytime we respond to someone with a gun, they're heightened, and we can definitely lower that down. So that will just delay that.
My personal, I mean, I don't know Mr. Allied Universal. I don't know him and Mr. Freaking from Adam. But the point is that there are some discrepancies on what we did. We didn't open up cabinets. We didn't do some things we should have done. And I think that we need to give the city of Laverne the best possible system. And if it, Cody, how long would it take to redo the bid? 2 weeks?
So the process would be, if that is council's direction, and I don't mean to jump in front of City Attorney Kranitz, but it would be an action of the council to reject all bids. We can't open the bid that we've got currently. It's been opened. So we've got to go back to kind of square one on that. And so the process with this particular project has included multiple tours of city facilities, which take time to schedule and set. I would, in terms to answer your question, Mayor, the legal minimum duration for posting a public bid would be 10 business days. This particular project probably does not deserve 10 business days. It needs more in that where we can facilitate. So something like this, I would like to see if we were to go back maybe a month or so, if that could be facilitated with the schedule, and then we would bring that back to council, if that is so the direction of council.
Mr. Domer.
And Mr. Mayor, if I can, in talking to Andrea, our grants person, and all that stuff, this has been an interesting grant. We haven't even received the budget modifications yet, and so yes, the grant will expire at the end of this year, and that's our last extension of it. So December 31st, 2025, if the grant expires. It would be probably about 2 months after rejecting all bids to bring something back to the city council. We would still have to go through a budget modification process with the Department of Justice. I'm concerned about some of the timely issues right now. If we've been having problems with them prior to the change in administrations, I think there may be some changes at that point. The other issue is that we do know that some of the equipment has been on back order or may be on back order. And then in addition to putting everything in, there's the project closeout that can take 2 months or so to get everything settled for it. So I think we would be pushing this back. Could we do it? It is a year or 11 and a half months.
Well, you already have the players. You know who the players are. Players are there. You've got the however many people showed up to the bid. I want it clean. I want it clean. That's my only concern. I want it clean. If we have to move fast, we move fast, but I mean, to put out bids and stuff, especially for something like this, that honestly, it's very important that we get this done, but we also need to get it done under the proper method. When we have people come into our, into the dais and into our council chambers to bring up a point, like, doesn't set well.
How many days was the first bid?
I apologize. I don't have that number off the top of my head.
You said it needs 10 days for a bid, but you said it doesn't need. This needs more.
Well,
it needs like a month. So I was just asking: was it a month given the first time, or was it closer to the 10 days?
I'd have to go back and look at the specific dates. The timeline for this process has started much earlier. It did involve a number of a different format. So it was formatted in a way that was a RFP, which is a request for proposals, which is a little different from a, in this case, a public works construction bid. The challenge with that at the time that we received was the concern of balancing the bids apples to apples. And so we were tasked to go back and create something apples to apples, and so that's where we got with what was put out to bid. I would have to look back. I think it was more than 10 days, but it was not a month. It was on the fast track side of things.
Yeah, Mr. Councilmember Crosby, it was not 10 days. It was not 30 days. It was closer to 3 weeks. And part of that was because it was rushed. It was the end of the year. It was getting close to the holidays. And again, we were still working on getting everything extended. So,
And would you have brought this to us in December if the extension wasn't approved? So you were trying to get it within that time frame.
correct. So we had wanted to bring this in on the December 16th meeting, and then I believe we got the extension. Hearing, I think we can do it if we cancel all bids, go back out to make it clean. I believe we can do it, and so I do believe that would be a better process, and give it the time. But we may be in October, and hopefully everything's wrapping up.
Well, I think what Cody just said as well. We started in November to get by the end of December, and we kind of rushed it through. Now we're at this process because we got an extension, but we still push this process. But what Cody just said, that it was difficult to get apples to apples and oranges to oranges to these bids and making sure they're all the same. So I think that point right there is that the bid might have been a little faulty.
We need to clarify the RFP.
We need to
clarify
make
the
sure
RFP.
that we get the same thing that we're talking about with all the companies.
Well, if I can make sure
Yeah.
that was a
Go ahead.
previous bid that the city council rejected.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Oh, I remember
there's-
that was.
Yes.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've talked about this, and I think I would like to make a motion to reject all bids and to go out for bid and expeditiously go out to bids, but also make sure that the RFP process is clear. We're spending a lot of money, that's grant money, but I want to make sure that that it's done so we can get this done, so we can get the police department up and running when they should be.
And it is January 21st.
Yes,
And
it
I would
is.
second that.
Then you have a vote. Vote, please.
Can we have discussion? I just have a question. So under the original RFP period, was there a Q&A period for
Correct.
bidders?
Yes.
And did those questions come up at that point?
My recollection of the questions were more to the effect of what the bid had in it. Some requests did include evaluating other technologies, which we had discussed at an internal level with staff. What we are proposing and what we had coordinated with the IT folks is that this is a cell-based network. Currently, we have a radio-based network, which has had its challenges, as
Right.
Chief Gonzalez had mentioned. Other ideas of using a Wi-Fi network have also been discussed. And so, working with the team on that, we were open to ideas, but we felt like there was a fair level of effort that had put into that the cell-based network would work best for the city of Laverne in that. So that was sort of one of the open-ended more questions, but yeah, a lot of the questions were received more specific to the content of the bids. Clarification on trying to recall. There was an item recalling about removal of existing equipment and so on. So more specific nature to that scope.
To the scope.
To my recollection on that, yeah.
So my comment is, I understand the desire to make sure that the bidding process is equitable, that we're getting all the information necessary, but I don't want to discount all the work that you have done, all the work that Sam has done, all the work that has been put forth. I would want to be very clear that given the tenuous situation of whether or not the funds will be there and the timing that we've had not an operating system, which is to the detriment of our residents, I want to be very clear that if we are going to pass this motion and open it up for a new bid, canceling the existing process, that any Q&A period, if someone responding to the bid does not raise these issues during the time specified, I'm not entirely comfortable with the fact that a potential vendor has come to raise these issues for personal reasons, right? I mean, that's a very, I appreciate the issues that are being raised, and if we can clear them up, great. But I also want to be very clear about where the ask is coming from and what that looks like and what the time period allotted for this process was and whether or not someone actually did what they should have done at a different time period. So that's my comment to that, and I'm happy the motion has been made. Unless there's further comment, we can vote.
Now, if we push this off for another month, you're saying this might not get done till October?
But if we keep it as is,
Well, again, we can, if the motion passes to reject all bids,
Okay.
We'll immediately put together a new RFP. That probably, we can take the old one, but there's some different things that have to go into it. Go out next week. I'm hearing that it'll probably be out for a month.
Okay.
The last one was opened on November 15th, or issued on November 15th and closed on December 3rd. So a little bit less. Yeah, and holidays. So, it'd provide more time. So I think 4 weeks at least would be good, 30 days.
Mid-February.
Then there's the reviewing. Help me, Cody, if I'm missing anything. It's reviewing. putting everything
No, we would
together.
open bids, we'd review them, and then there is drafting the staff report to make a council agenda. So a handful of weeks between when it opens to
So
when
if
it
it's
makes
January,
it to.
February, March, we would be, first week of April, and then that would be getting supplies and ordering, April, May, June, July, August, September, closeout. So, Cody, can you describe the closeout?
I just need a time frame total. So let's just say, so based on that, October. Now, if we continue our mission and go right now, how soon can we get these camera systems that you're recommending, Chief, as well, to get implemented? Great.
Yeah, there's
That the equipment you're going to buy is available.
Right.
Yeah.
So once the cameras are in place, there's still the system integration where they basically make them all connect and talk and get that function going. I would have to rely on the IT folks for more specifics of how long that takes, but my assumption based on the current information that we had on this project would be a month to two or so to start getting them up and running after the cameras have been installed, which, there is a lead time on even ordering those cameras and getting them installed. So there's a process there, and it will slowly come to fruition once those are up and running. So a handful of months, from that point. Or so.
And I would say there's, if it's awarded tonight, and then we could have the vendor start ordering everything, or if it's canceled tonight, we go back out, we put it out as described. There's a 3-month window, so pushes it back 3 months.
So do you have any concerns about the funding not being there? I want to be real honest.
Concerns about funding not being there.
Me too.
Well, that's dicey anyway right now.
Fortunately, that $500,000 by Napolitano was in the, I think, 23, 24, or 22, 23.
Yeah, 23, 24.
Yeah, so it's in there. We have received the extension. We're getting to be good friends with the people there. So at this time, no, but it is the federal government. And I even say that about the state government. So
we don't really have it anyway.
Yeah,
because it was hard. I remember you talking about it, but I mean,
yeah,
I want to make sure the RFI process is bulletproof. As Councilmember Lau said, it must have a time frame to respond. If they don't respond in that time frame, just like I do, you're done.
Yeah.
You accept it in your bid, and that's it. If you didn't cover the RFI and you take the bid, tough luck. That's what's called the bidding.
Absolutely, and I would welcome better pricing. So,
okay. Well, we've got the motion. Do we have any other? We've got the motion on the floor. Reject all bids. I have a second from Mr. Johnson. Can we vote, please?
Had a motion by Hepburn, a second by Johnson to reject all bids. That was approved 5-0.
And again, nothing against how it was done. I just think we need to make it better this time. I appreciate all the hard work, but get a system that's going to works well. Thank you. We move on to next item is the Enterprise Resource Planning System upgrade. Senior Manager Domer, please call forward the staff member who will be reporting.
For that, I'm going to call
Christy.
forward Christy Lopez, our finance director, and she'll be assisted by Aaron, if need be. Only if need be. Backup singer.
I like
Bravo.
She would do it.
He's had it. He's had enough. He's running. Hello.
Good evening.
Okay. All right. All right.
He's good. He can walk and listen at the same
Talented.
time with the bottle of water.
Let's
go.
So, good evening, Mayor, council members, and city staff. Thank you for the opportunity to present staff's proposal to upgrade our enterprise resource planning, or ERP system, from Naviline to Finance Enterprise, which are both Central Square systems. This recommendation comes after a thorough evaluation of available options and represents the most cost-effective, efficient, and impactful approach to modernize our city's operational capabilities. The city has relied on ERP systems since the year 2000 to support essential administrative functions such as financial management, accounts receivables, payables, business licensing, and human resources, to name a few. While the last upgrade in 2021 transitioned us to a cloud-based platform from a premise platform, it did not provide the process improvements that the modern systems provide and will improve our current operational processes in multiple areas, including decentralized timekeeping, redundant processes, and limited tools such as a lack of benefit management and functions like employee self-service. The proposed system will comprehensively address these limitations, allowing us to consolidate workflows, increase productivity, and ultimately deliver better service both internally and externally. The city identified the need for this upgrade in the 2020-2021 capital improvement plan, allocating $1.2 million towards this effort. Over $750,000 is already budgeted to cover implementation. The finance enterprise system emerged as the best option due to cost savings. Implementing this upgrade avoids the expense and delay of the request for proposal process, or RFP, saving up to $150,000 in consultant fees. Initial implementation costs are $164,929,000, which is far less than comparable systems in other municipalities. Additionally, integrated functionality. This system will consolidate multiple platforms, eliminating redundant systems like paper timekeeping and invoice tracking with document storage. Finance Enterprise offers essential modules including contract and grant management, HR self-service, and centralized timekeeping. Some of the key benefits of Finance Enterprise are streamlined processes, fully integrated business process, which connects purchase orders, contracts, and invoices with electronic approvals and document storage. Cost efficiency. Year one costs total $206,775, which is $28,000 above the current costs. This includes functionality that eliminates separate system, resulting in long-term savings. Improved employee morale, modernized tools, reduce administrative burdens, and increase efficiency, boosting productivity and satisfaction across the department, which will include the ability for employees to access their own documents. Currently, if someone loses their pay stub, we have to reprint that for them. And so that creates some additional steps that the employee has to go through. Seamless transition, leveraging our strong partnership with Central Square minimizes risks typically associated with system upgrades. The city conducted comparisons with other municipalities to ensure financial prudence and spoke to current users of Finance Enterprise, as well as other competitor systems, to understand the capabilities of the system's implementation and the service levels. Central Square's Finance Enterprise system, tailored to our needs, offers equivalent capabilities at a significantly lower cost. Implementation is anticipated to be conducted over a period of 6 to 12 months, involving 7 to 10 hours of work per department per week. A dedicated team of city staff and Central Square experts will oversee the migration. While supplemental compensation for staff may be required, this approach remains more cost-effective than hiring third-party consultants. As you can see in my full report, we had a lot of different examples of different agencies that we spoke to. We spoke to Mona, Aaron spoke to San Gabriel, I believe, Alhambra. We spoke to Arcadia. We looked up multiple RFP processes that had been completed to try and look at what was being done out there, because the process was going to be 12 to 18 months just for us to write the RFP, which was going to cost us money going through a consultant. Funding will draw from the Capital Improvement Program budget and ensures no additional financial burden beyond already allocated resources. In conclusion, upgrading to Central Scare's finance enterprise is a necessary step to modernize city operation. It provides an integrated, cost-effective, and efficient solution to address the goal of moving towards updated and streamlined processes and enhances both employee and resident experiences. While our recommendation to waive the formal bid requirements is outside of the city's normal process, we want to assure council that while we did not complete a formal bid process, we did complete an informal process, whereas we collected multiple bids from agencies to compare the implementation and software costs for both finance enterprise and comparable companies. This investment positions Laverne for a more sustainable, productive, and service-oriented future, and I am happy to answer any questions or provide additional details, or if Erin has anything to add, she can do that as well. She's an expert on process improvement. So,
Very thorough, thank you. I think we'll open up public comment first, though, but thank you. Anybody wish to speak on this item? That would be a no. Okay, we're going to come back to the dais. That's great work, and I really appreciate the fact that obviously we're not going through the normal process, but you've explained it extremely well. I'll have other council members speak, but you've explained it extremely well. This is something that's going to benefit our city, efficiency, employees, and Aaron's smiling, so that means that's a good thing too. So if it's good for Aaron, it's good for Christy, I guess much it's good for us. So anyway, council?
I just think it'd be good for our employees to be able to access that information rather than paper and pencil and all the other stuff that probably is being done.
Yeah.
It's getting us in the 21st century, so I really appreciate it.
yes, updating their own direct deposit information, all of that is being done.
So I think with that, I'm going to ask for a motion, it looks like. Can I get a motion? Second? Vote, please.
If I heard that correctly, it was motion by Johnson, seconded
Great
by
job.
Crosby,
Thank you, guys.
and approved 5-0.
Aaron, Christy, thank you very much. Okay. I guess I should have read the whole thing, but we did approve it, so we basically approve and waive the formal bid requirements and authorize the city manager to enter into contract. Implementation of a 5-year agreement with the Central Square for the purchase of upgraded enterprise resource planning system called Finance Enterprise, and the continuation of the contract for the Naviline system of utility billing and business license modules. There you go. Thank you. Final item is the amended and restated employment agreement with city manager. The city attorney will be providing the staff presentation on this item. Lisa.
Thank you. So, as the council knows, that you annually conduct a performance evaluation of the city manager, and any amendment to the employment is part of the regular city council matter for consideration. The city council held performance evaluation of the city manager in November and December last year, 2024, and based on that evaluation, the city attorney's office was directed to bring back a restated employment agreement with the following changes. In a similar fashion to step increases for other city employees, the city manager would be provided a standard merit increase of 5% for performance during this evaluation period. And going forward, the merit increase step would be 2.5% if it's approved by the city council based on future annual evaluation reviews. There's an establishment of a higher education tuition allowance for participation in a doctoral studies program relevant to municipal governance, and you're authorizing the city manager to teach a public administration course during his employment. Similar to a benefit recently established for members of the POA, the city manager will be enrolled in a medical savings trust through a $100 per month contribution in lieu of any other retiree medical post-employment benefit. And this will extend the city manager's agreement till December 19th, 2028. For the current fiscal year, the fiscal impact of the salary increase and medical savings trust is approximately $5,730.
Thank you very much. I'm going to open up public comment on this item. Anyone wish to speak on this item? Ms. Beauchamp.
got time for that. I would like to suggest that the council approve this. Ken has been a godsend to our city. We all have our issues with past city manager, and Ken has been transparent from day one. He has emailed after business hours just because that's the kind of person he is. He goes above and beyond. He's always answered the questions that I have asked of him with not just an answer, but above and beyond and giving even more detail and clarifying things. And so I'm sure, as you've noticed, I have less things being pulled from the consent calendar. So I really appreciate him. I feel like he is a good fit for our city, and you guys would be crazy not to extend his contract. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beauchamp. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? We're going to, yes.
Okay, my name is Lily Breno. Everybody stay here for a reason, even though it's late and tired, okay? So I'm just not very positive about the Verne small town charm. You know, we've been talking about so many years. But since more residents come in, and then after the Wi-Fi, the whole Los Angeles, we were like, oh, we're short of a house, need house for rent. So that's like a more reason to build more house. Actually, I recently knew some new resident, especially Chinese family, moving Laverne because
Lily, this isn't public comment.
Oh, okay. But I said what I need to say. Okay. I will come back for this topic.
Thank you. With that, anyone else wish to speak on this item? We're going to close public comment, bring it up to the dais. I'll refer to Councilmember Crosby because he and I are actually on the committee to review it and bring it back to the council. So, Mr. Crosby.
I think
regarding his contract.
Tonight, just a comment from consent calendar of two residents of how much you reached out to them this weekend about an item. And really went forward in trying to get that back. So also bringing this, I believe we have a great city manager. I believe he's done I believe he's done a great job for us. There are city manager positions opening up around the county and just in towns nearby, and we don't want to lose the one we have. And by doing this agreement, we sign him up for a while and make sure he has to stay with us as well. Doing incentive program of going back to school and getting his doctorate in governmental, it just enhances what he brings to our city as well. So thinking of things outside the box and trying to give him to that doesn't cost a lot, but it means a lot more coming back to us. And so these were pieces that we thought of looking at, and when we proposed this contract for Mr. Domer, and I approve this contract fully.
Thank you, Mr. Crosby. And I will say that there's been a big change since you've come on, Ken, and we really do appreciate that. And I think we also have a council that we can discuss things and we can be honest about what's going on. Even sometimes if it hurts, it's honest. But I also want to thank you for, you're always, I just call it penny pinching. You're very good at that, and I really appreciate it. Even with your own contract, it's like, you're very conservative, and we really appreciate that. And we want to make sure you stay on and lead us for the next number of years to get us ahead of this economy we're in and the situation. But I personally appreciate the communication we have. We communicate with all of our residents, communicate with all our council members, and the staff. It's just a much happier place in the city hall. And I've said it before, it's just a better place, and it's because of you and your leadership. And letting people make decisions in their own teams and each department, and really working as a team. But we really do appreciate that. Council?
I just wanted to say thank you for all that you've done. We'll be auditing your class. So you're looking at 5 students here.
I'll be there.
But thank you for everything you've done. I think you've definitely been a breath of fresh air. And so I'd like to go ahead and make the motion to approve the amended and restated employment agreement for city manager, providing the city manager certain benefits based on a positive performance evaluation.
Second. Have a second. Second. Oh, boy, he's getting rummy now.
That item was approved 5-0 after being motioned by Lau, seconded by Cashelvigita.
Very good. Thank you. There's no other business tonight, so we move on to public comments and oral communications. This is the time set aside for anyone wishing to address the City Council on items not listed on the agenda but within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. I want to remind everyone what the Brown Act prohibits the City Council from engaging in discussion on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. However, your concerns may be referred to staff or placed for discussion at a later date. I will try to keep to a 3-minute time frame tonight as it is getting late for all of us. So I will open up public comment. Anybody wish to speak?
I continue the topic just now. I support the race if the hard working for the city, right? Definitely support, okay. And then also in the future, I will still coming up for two concerns, okay. Old Town, we close the Go Light. So opening, I'm not very positive for that because the crime going to increase. I could see that. I'm thinking about to do the alarm for the camera for my house right now since too close. And then above 210, the wildfire, a big concern. I have a new friend I know about. They bought a house there. They think it's really good. Old Town Charm, all the advertising is really good, right? But I really tell him it's a kind of little danger because there's easy to catch fire. After I showed him the picture, the lake, right? The reservoir, right? It's not really that much water. 1 week ago, I said, take a picture. Let me show me. Where's the water go? And then I was told it's a few more water right now since Mayor really did some work. But in the future, if we have more residents move in, I still really think it's not that positive in that area. The fire is crazy, right? That happened right now. I have friends in Patterson, lost her house. Her house still there. She didn't get back. She's still crying today. And then all her neighbors' house gone. So it's the reality. And then my friend in San Diego, and then get a big alarm 3 miles close to his house, and then spread San Diego right now. So it could happen any time, just north of our city, right? So it's a very big concern in the future. So I will still keep coming back. It's a long term with plan. I hope anything like a general plan. I don't know if it really have serious concern about the fire resource. Do we have enough water, enough firemen, all the resource for the fire when it happen at the same time? Enough water, hygiene, everything we need to concern seriously. It's really a big deal. So I'm not very positive for that. Just let's pray for all the people who are struggling right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. Anyone else wish to speak on public comment? Yvonne, come on up.
Good evening. I just wanted to promote, but also talk about some of the things that Cassie, our Cultural Awareness and Social Inclusion group, did over the MLK weekend, doing community service, right? So a couple of things that I want to talk about is one of the things that we did was we did contributions to and donations to the Laverne Parent Participation Preschool. They were accepting donations of preschool age and newborn age types of items, anywhere from baby wipes to diapers to shampoos, toothbrushes, toothpastes, etc. So we did do our best and made a donation to the LVPPP. Secondly, another one of our Martin Luther King Jr. Day initiatives was to collect donations for the Leo Pantry, right? So if you're not familiar with the Leo Pantry, that is for the students to, take things that they need. They're always looking for donations of non-perishable items. So one of the things that we did is we put together a drive to make those donations. You may have seen or maybe didn't see, but I have a bunch of bags near me because people did come through, and I told them to meet me here at City Council meeting to make their donations. So I do have a few bags, and I'm expecting to have a few more bags of things, of non-perishable items, personal hygiene items, etc., so that we can make that donation to the Leo Pantry. I would say if you are interested in making a donation to the Leo Pantry through Cassie, to just please email us at cassie.laverne.org, and we'll happily coordinate a pickup or a drop-off so that we can take your donations to the Leo Pantry. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. Appreciate that. Anyone else wish to speak? Raymond. Evening.
Here in council, wasn't really going to speak, but there's been enough talk tonight about safety, fire, and those kind of things. So this is a little premature, but we are making progress on our what we call our Rustic Canyon Firewise community, and then I'm thinking like 6 weeks to 8 weeks from now, we would really have a presentation to make to the council on what we've actually been able to do. But again, the idea is to have a defined geography that's a community-based organization that follows a certain set of requirements to do assessments of our own community and then put together a 3-year development plan on how we're going to mitigate and wildfires, and then what are we going to do to harden our own homes and at some kind of percentage, meaning like at least 60% of our community move from here to here to here. So we've talked about it before. I just want to let you know that process is moving along. Hard without an HOA to get 150 households together, and so getting that communication base is taking the time to get us to where we're at. But things are moving along, and I hope to come back in 6 to 8 weeks and really give you something good to talk about. But it's all in support of the issues that are facing us right now with wildfires and just fire in general, and our collective challenges with insurance, the California Fair Plan, and that kind of stuff. Okay?
Thank you, Raymond. Appreciate it. Anyone else wish to speak on public comment? Mr. Gavaldon.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Couple things from tonight, just listening. I wasn't really planning to speak, but I think there's a big miss in approving the general plan. And I'm going to restate a little bit of what my wife said that has been stated on more than one occasion. And I know that there's a deadline and everybody's got to play by the rules that they have to play with. But that Fairplex development is serious. And I don't feel the council has provided the guidance to anybody on staff to really seriously consider what if that happened. That if 10,000 units do go in there, which was stated by them, not just people coming up with a number, what does that really do to the quality of life in Laverne? And it not being considered in the general plan, or even considered as part of the calculus for the outcomes, it seems like negligent. Negligent for the council, quite frankly, on behalf of the citizens, that you haven't really considered that the main corridor that goes through the city through two major freeways, the 210 and the 10, what that impact is. And it just, to me, seems to be a glaring oversight considering the traffic issues that we already have along that area and Foothill at the intersection of Foothill and White. Additionally, the part that kind of struck me tonight the most was the RFP. I do a lot of that, and it's not the Q&A, Wendy. It's the quality of the RFP you put out, because it's dependent on the vendors to solicit a bid based on what they're being asked to provide. But what it sounded like to me is going to happen if you didn't postpone it tonight was you just get a whole bunch of overruns, a whole bunch of unforeseen expenses and complications that would have delayed the implementation anyway. So I appreciate you, Tim and Steve, for your business acumen in that the quality of that RFP has to be there. Otherwise, trying to put in a camera system that isn't going to work for some other reason would have just been a waste of money. Additionally, I heard in that comment that cell technology is being considered, and others. I didn't hear satellite. And in the scenario where there's an earthquake, cameras aren't going to work if Wi-Fi goes down, if cellular goes down, So it's common sense kind of stuff, right? And I really believe that, I know a lot of people are under crunches to get that done, but I really stress to Ken, who I also agree does a good job and has always been very open and transparent and responsive to me when I did ask questions. I haven't been as much of a busybody lately, but I really feel that the quality of that RFP is going to be dependent on the outcomes you get. And I think I'd like to reiterate that I feel the community deserves maybe a more an update from the fire chief to the community on how it is that we are prepared or not prepared, because Pacific Palisades and Altadena and all those poor people, whatever 12, 13,000 homes, people completely displaced, we are in an equally, if not more dangerous environment, at least a lot of the folks, my friends, north of Baseline. And it can happen, and it's not a joke, and I feel like, the folks that are trying to do something proactively, I feel like they need the community to be a little more self-aware of where we sit in our topography, our geography, our risk, and what would we do as a community. When you mentioned generators earlier, I know I was offering my extra generators to people up there if they wanted them. Some people didn't know, but I feel like we're not really, as a community, as well prepared as we should be for what that disaster revealed is wholly possible under the right conditions. So anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gabaldon. Anyone else wish to speak? Cynthia.
Just to follow up with a couple things, the analysis on the RFP that a few of you said, that is exactly the same analysis that we deserve as residents on that EIR and this general plan. And I'm also going to say, and I'm not going to say who it is, but there's various staff and consulting staff that have been very, very dismissive through this process. And when I actually went through all the comment letters, it was very interesting that the residents who spoke up, almost every single one of them, it said, there is no issue. There is no issue. You guys know I've been doing this stuff a long time. That really is unacceptable. And for the people who are these consultants, they don't live here. Legal doesn't live here. Some of the staff doesn't live here. We live here. And in particular for that noise issue, and I asked them again, they shined it on again, but that location number 3 is on the other end of town. There is nothing in the Amherst neighborhood, and only the Amherst neighborhood in the city of Laverne at this time has been impacted by 3 different developments. It's the only neighborhood. This isn't just about the freeways and whatever's existing. So we need to be taken much more seriously, and it's very interesting that the analysis that was done for this RFP, which I absolutely agree it's a big issue and you got to do that right, but that's the type of questioning that you as the elected and the Planning Commission as appointed by you should have been doing through this whole process. It would not have hurt anybody to postpone this one more month, and we could have had some of these questions answered. Wouldn't have affected anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gabaldon. Any other comments? Anita?
When the RFP process is being conducted, that if the necessary parties are all in attendance. So as Cody attests that he cannot speak on behalf of IT, he's an engineer, well, then we need to make sure that that whoever is in charge of IT is also in that meeting with the people that are processing the bid for if and when they have questions, the proper people are present to answer those questions to make it fair. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? We're going to close public comment, bring up the dais. Councilmember Lau.
Okay. It's been a long night, so bear with me. Just real quick, Happy New Year. I just wanted to remind everybody that with the beginning of each new year, we have new laws that go into effect. If you are not following LVPD on your social media or in other places, they did highlight one of our new laws that went into effect January 1, which is daylighting, which is basically no parking within 20 feet of any crosswalk or 15 feet at crosswalks with curb extensions. So there will be warnings initially and then citations, but I think it's just a good reminder that at the beginning of each new year, there's always new things that come about. So LVPD is a source of information for some of that, so make sure that you are taking a look. I know that's also something that came up during our active transportation meeting that happened last week, right before I got really sick. And for those of you who've been with us for the long haul since the beginning of this meeting, you did hear from Tri-City. There is a community forum that is taking place next Wednesday. And this is essential because this does talk about how our mental health services will be provided not only to Laverne, but to Claremont and Pomona. And so I would urge that residents who are interested, please consider attending. You can either attend in person from 5:30 to 7 p.m. at the Alexander Hughes Community Center in Claremont, but there's also availability via Zoom if you'd like to participate. And as was mentioned really briefly by our Tri-City representative, it is talking about how our MHSA monies will be used. And so if you would like to have a say in what that looks like, I would urge you to attend. Harkening on day of service and some of the things that some of their folks have brought up, I just really want to highlight, Martin Luther King Jr. asked, what are you doing for others? That's one of life's most persistent and urgent questions. And I'm really proud to be in a community where I think our community members ask that routinely. I know that ULV did their day of service over the weekend as well and dedicated time at the Huerta del Valle Community Garden, which supports sustainable agriculture. The Lugwood Center for Spirituality, Cultural Understanding, and Community Engagement did a lot of reflective exercises about MLK and his works. They did a rock painting. They did an interactive display of MLK's wisdom, and they also did a candle lighting today. I will also piggyback a little bit on what Yvonne brought up earlier. Cassie, over the weekend, in honor of MLK Day, also donated books to the little libraries throughout the city. So, it cannot be discounted how much reading is a vital part of learning and experiencing something different. So I really applaud, I think, the 15 or so community members that came together to walk through the city streets to fill up these little libraries. And I love all the people that are putting the little libraries out because, it's on your property or it's on your street and, you've got everyone's different, everyone's cute. So I really appreciate that. And last but not least, in light of all the things that have been happening with the wildfires, I mean, you've heard from so many people in our community. While we were lucky this time to be inconvenienced and not displaced, I think it's important just to remember how quickly things can change. And so thinking about preparedness, but also just wanting to be very thankful and grateful to our staff, our fire department, our police department, our public works, everybody, for all of your patience and all that you've done. I don't know how many of you, I know most of you are aware that we are in mutual aid agreements and we send out, our firefighters out to these different fires. But not only that, we send out our police to help evacuate people out of the communities that need evacuation. And that's on top of the normal day jobs that these people do for us every day within our city, taking medical calls, taking, calls on crime or whatever else is happening here. So I really want to applaud that. And I also want to thank our city staff. When people are scared and when people are freaked out, sometimes those emotions come out in a negative way. And our staff has been nothing but kind. And I really want to say thank you because there have been people that have gone into the city asking for their power to be turned back on or for this and that to happen. And for our staff to be so polite, even in the face of their own families losing homes, even in the face of their own personal traumas, I really want to say thank you so much for everything you do. So thank you. I also wanted to do a shout out to a couple of our local businesses. If you aren't aware, again, I am just really moved by the people in our community. So if you are not familiar with Laverne Brewing Company, they are one of the breweries that have signed up to We Love LA Beer. So a number of breweries are brewing a special beer to benefit the United Way of Greater LA for the Wildfire Relief Fund. So easy way to build community, go have a beer and raise some money for some victims, right? So Recovery Lab, if you aren't familiar with where Recovery Lab is, it's over in the Shogun parking lot. It's by where the Starbucks used to be. But they are offering free hyperbaric oxygen treatments to our firefighters through the end of this month. as a thank you for their work.
That's the old Petrillos.
Yes, but they're right by the Starbucks.
Right, the Starbucks,
yeah,
right
where
next
the
door?
Color Be Mine or whatever.
Oh,
the
I know.
logo-
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right there. CrossFit Laverne also collected donations from January 10th through January 17th to affect those that were displaced by the fire. And our own Chamber of Commerce has offered resources and information for folks who need extra information. So again, I just want to be, really cognizant of we live in a good place with good people that are looking to help each other out, and I really appreciate that. So as always, be kind. I hope you do not get whatever the hell I got that makes me sound like I smoke 3 packs a day. Stay healthy, stay safe, be kind.
Thank you, Councilmember Crosby.
Yes, I want to thank. I wanted to start from timing. On Christmas morning, I want to thank Chad Peterson. He was not supposed to be out to help us, and there was someone that didn't make it, and so he was called, and so he left his house to come down and help out, and just him coming down and just giving back to our city when he wasn't expecting to. So I really appreciate Chad for that. I want to make sure that was shout out. Last week, Councilmember Lau, myself, and Mr. Domer were on the Southern California Edison call, and I know Ken said about it today. If you live in those high areas and that your power is going to be shut off, be prepared to be shut off. Southern California Edison is going to be watching their risk assessment and shutting the power off so that fires don't happen. And just want to make sure that those areas and those lines that they might not be in the windiest area, or they might not be all the way up on the hill, but your line is, and that's what they're shutting off. And that's what was said to us. I want to make sure that was clear and said to everyone. On February 14th, it's coming up, Valentine's Day. There is an Inclusion Special Needs Sweetheart Dance. Go out, and Yvonne does a great program. Make sure you get out there. Special thanks to our Public Works during the windstorm. They were the ones out in the middle of the night, really cleaning up before that morning came. Our police and fire did a great job, but Public Works stepped up and made sure before everyone woke up that things were, if a tree fell down, it was already being cleared away. So really especially thanks out to them. And then this past weekend, I got quite a few phone calls, and I just want to bring up an item that was started 5 years ago when I was first running for city council. And that was the Sierra Laverne Golf Course. Sierra Laverne Golf Course was really said, would you ever change the zoning? And my comment was no. But now people are coming up with the Laverne Lutheran, and it's a foregone conclusion that zoning would be changed. So my argument is, what's so special about Sierra Laverne that Laverne Lutheran is not? And I feel in our district, District 2, that we have been bombarded by more homes. So why should we change the zoning? Lewis Homes bought this property, and when they first put it for sale, it was sold on the conclusion that the zoning would change. They didn't price it out with the zoning what it is now. So if we don't change the zoning, and that is a thing that we can do, then their property value goes down, and a school can actually go back there and be there. It can be properly priced for that. So my call to arms is that all of our property and open spaces is worth a lot to all of our residents. And if we feel that one property is so special, we should feel all of our properties are that special. And changing our zoning, it should not be a foregone conclusion, and that we should fight for the zoning what it is right now.
Thank you, Mr. Crosby. Councilmember Hagita.
All right. What can I say? It's already been said by my amazing colleagues. You know what I mean? we go back to that day on Christmas. Chad, I was right there, and I was right there with him when the ambulance broke down. And thank you, Town Chief Russell came to the rescue. Man, this guy is he knows it all. He got it back up and running. We continued our mission, had a great time. And Miguel and my other partner that was in the vehicle with me, I probably they were going to quit because I was just on that mic so much. But, we had a great time. I loved seeing all the families come out, and it just really warmed my heart to see all the great citizens. New Year, started off a little rocky. I'm glad that I was really worried about our citizens up here in North Laverne because the wind. I felt like if you've ever been almost sandblasted, which I have been several times in the Middle East. Oh yeah, getting hit with that sand it just really took me back. But thank you to the Public Works, thank you to the fire. And our fire chief was on it, notifying as much as you can, all the information we can get out there. We had fire crews. A lot of people don't know, but we had a lot of great fire crews out there, both here protecting our hometown. And going out there, our police officers that have responded to make sure looters don't get out there. You know what I mean? And seeing our community get together. I had one generator, small as it was, with 2 outlets, and I want to share with my elderly neighbors. We're all in this together. So we have a new commander-in-chief, and I look forward to seeing what that's going to do for our great military. I'm really proud of that, seeing hopefully we can do really well. I'm looking forward to that. And look forward to our good city. New year, new us. We continue to push and work together and make our city just that much better. And I look forward to any other opportunity that comes our way and that we can get some funding to our city. And I love to give raises out, man. I wish I could give you more, buddy. But I got you 4 more years, so guess what? The jokes keep coming here. 4 more years, buddy. 4 more. We're going to have you.
You can't count.
28. Didn't we say till 28?
Are you good now?
25.
I'm thinking 24 and then 4 more.
Are you good now?
I'll give you 4 more. Hopefully we get some more money for our city. You know what I mean? Look, I want best I can do.
It's way past my bedtime.
I know it's way past my bedtime too. But hey, you know what? God bless America. God bless City of Laverne. God bless all you guys. All right, Army strong.
Thank you, Cash. Councilmember Johnson.
It's already been said, but I appreciate every department here that helped with the fires, helped with cleaning up Laverne after the wind. Chief Nig represented the city so well. It's amazing. The Christmas morning, an excellent day. I mean, to be able to pull that off, didn't have the bags of candy. A lot of people missed that, but I think being able to get it down every street, have Santa Claus come through, continue the tradition. My neighborhood, at least, all the families come out, tokens. It's just such a Laverne thing, and I'm glad that we're continuing it. I'm also glad, Chief Nig, to know that the Firewise program is still in process. We may not have the designation yet, but I'm hopeful that will happen. Going from one emergency to another, earthquake. We haven't had a major earthquake in Laverne for quite some time.
Jesus. Had everything else but locust. God.
But for older homes, like the ones that are in my neighborhood, that are
strapping their house down,
that are not bolted down to a foundation, the California Earthquake Authority has a program to bolt those down, and they're providing up to $3,000 to do that. We took advantage of that program about 10 years ago. My house was built in 1928 and bolted down concrete pillars. So we were able to get it bolted to the concrete foundation. Thankful for, but it's a program that's still in effect, and it's open right now. This is the Earthquake Brace Basin Program through the Earthquake Authority in California, and this goes and is open through February 26, 2020, to get an application process. Recommend anybody, District 1, who has an older home, if they're not already bolted down, to get that taken care of. Bless you all for all the work you've done for us through this emergency situation. What you'll do for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. I want to say, too, that I know there's been comments about not prepared. We have basically put employees in place. We have upstaffed our fire departments. We have made sure that our water storage has up to capacity with with generators to back up. We had MWD fill up the reservoir enough to get snorkels through there in case we had fires in North Laverne. And the Three Valleys Municipal Water District will buy that water, no matter what's in there. And that's because of Ken Domer. That's because of Fire Chief Nig, also Police Chief Sam Gonzalez. We were prepared for what we could have, and with our mutual aid, automatic aid agreements, that we would have resources here if we needed to, and we would be in the place where we need to be. Utter devastation on these other communities, there's no excuse for that. I don't care what anybody says, there's no excuse. There's people accountable for that. People lost entire generations and lives, and also businesses that Lord knows how we're going to ever get over that, and how they're going to rebuild that. So I just want to thank our staff, and they've done an amazing job. We're as prepared as we can be, and I think that's the most important thing, that if it does happen, we'll be prepared as we can with all of our partnerships, and I thank that to our staff for having great relationships with all these other cities. So with that, it is 10:18. It is time to adjourn this meeting. I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you all for your comments, and thank you for being here. I don't get to the bathroom.